Tell me what's going on.
I'm at home. My wife been shot in the head. Please.
Somebody shot in the head.
My wife, please.
Okay, they're coming, sir.
We had a disagreement, and I say, baby, if you're not working with me, you're working against me. I say, we've been doing this. My 19-year-old stepdaughter was 8. My 11-year-old was 1. I say, Olivia, we can't get it together. We can't be together. Okay. We got several. And I say, I just want a divorce. And her reaction was, and I've been saying this for quite some time. And her reaction was, if you don't want me, I'm gonna kill myself. I come in, she got the gun. I said, give me the gun. She like, I don't remember which hand. I'm like, give me that gun. What is you doing? Stop trying to scare me.
This is Christopher Jones, a correctional officer who just found out that his wife is dead. He seems distressed, but his story does not add up.
Mr. Butler just said she was alive. Ma'am, Mr. Butler just said that she was alive.
Just
Sir,
talk to him.
you need to talk to me, okay?
Officers are suspicious of him, and even they have no idea about the dark secret he's hiding on his home camera and when the truth comes out. On Valentine's Day 2019, Beaumont Fire Department received an emergency call.
Yes, sir. Beaumont Fire Department received a call. Somebody's having some difficulty breathing.
5575, no.
Okay.
Sir, please.
Sir, we got them coming already. I'm trying to get some more information. Tell me what's going on.
We got it to it. I just want to take the gun.
Tell me what's going on.
I'm at home. My wife been shot in the head. Please.
Somebody shot in the head.
My wife, please.
Okay, they're coming, sir. What I need to know is if she's shot in the head,
Please.
where is she shot directly in the head and what caliber?
5, it's a 9. Please, her.
Sir, I've got them coming. I'm trying to help you. Where was she shot? Is she conscious? Is she breathing?
No, she's dead.
Okay. Can you control the bleeding?
Chris was moving frantically right up until the call ended. Then he became calm and strolled around in his house, waiting for the officers. But when the officers arrived, he started moving frantically once again, trying his best to look distraught.
Broken down on the dresser. Come this way.
Okay.
Please, come this way. This way.
Okay.
Please. Olivia!
Called out her name and tried to get in the room, but was held back by one of the officers.
Baby!
Sir. Okay. Step back.
What's up, Mr. Butler?
Inside, officers found Olivia Jones dead, with a clean gunshot wound to the head. There was no sign of forced entry, and Olivia's husband, Christopher, was the only other adult in the home. So an officer tried to get his version of events to understand what had happened.
We got a loaded gun on the side of the bed. We got a loaded shotgun in the corner where the video games is. Now, went inside after coming out, because I'm finna get ready to go at my hitch. I'm getting ready to go serve food.
Right.
I come in, she got the gun. I said, give me the gun. She like, I don't remember which hand. I'm like, give me that gun. What is you doing? Stop trying to scare me.
The gun went off during the struggle, killing Olivia and leaving Christopher devastated.
I took it.
So when you grabbed it, it went off?
She yanked. I grabbed it and she yanked back, and the gun went off.
Okay.
The gun went off.
All right.
And I did the best I could.
What's your last name?
Jones, Christopher. I work at the Federal Bureau of Prisons. My wife is Olivia Jones.
How you spell your first name?
Christopher, C-H-R.
Do you have an ID with you? We got EMS coming to match. So.
This was Christopher's version of events that painted him as an innocent man, but he was about to find out that his wife was alive and could potentially give her version of events.
Mr. Butler, I got help.
No. You don't need to go in there, okay?
Is she alive?
Yeah, she is.
She is.
We got him.
Is she alive, Mr. Butler?
When we went in there,
Please don't tell me she's alive if she's not.
And when I saw her, she was.
She was talking?
She wasn't talking.
Is she breathing?
It looked like she was breathing, yeah.
Ooh, good.
Like, don't
Mr.
go in
Butler,
there, sir.
please.
Sir, I need you to stay right here with me, okay? And calm down.
Calm down.
As Jones learned about the possibility of Olivia surviving, he started to panic. After all, he didn't want her to give her version.
Just try the best to calm down a little bit, okay?
Mr. Butler, please can we just go look at her?
No, sir. You can't go in there. We have a scene in there now, so you don't need to go in there.
While Jones continued to pin the blame on Olivia, her sister was sure that he was the one who shot her. Officers also seemed to suspect him.
Can you talk to her? Can she talk?
No, and you know that she's gone.
I know. Mr. Butler just said she was alive. Ma'am, Mr. Butler just said that she was alive.
Talk to him. Just
Sir,
talk to him.
you need to
and
talk to
stay
me,
focused.
okay?
Why is she treating me?
After learning that Olivia was alive, Christopher started insisting on going to the room she was in to be a way to intimidate her into silence.
My wife. Can I open the front door for them?
Oh, no, so they'll come this way.
How they gonna get out this way? They can't get out this way.
I just,
Can you please open the front?
I got it. I got it. You just
Ma'am,
stay
what
right
did I do
Got him.
wrong other than I'm trying to get y'all?
Sir,
I want,
you
okay,
need to come down and sit over here,
scene
okay?
Right now, so I
Okay,
just
so you
need
can't
to
go
sit
in there.
down and talk to the officer.
Christopher anxiously waited outside while an emergency medical services unit went inside to check up on Olivia. If they could save her, she would be able to give her side of the story, and that had Christopher worried. After waiting for nearly 15 minutes, he saw the EMS leave the house, and an officer walked up to him with an update.
He went and looked at her. There's nothing that can be done at this point.
She's gone.
I'm sorry for your loss, man. I apologize. I thought somebody already told you.
Christopher was secretly relieved to learn that his wife wasn't going to talk, but he still had to play the part of a distraught husband. Now the question was, would the officers buy it? They went to the side to discuss specifics that were not adding up. The most glaring one was that Olivia had been shot in the back of her head, which could not have happened if there was a struggle like Christopher had described.
He said him and his wife were in their bedroom. They got in an argument over the fact that he wants a divorce from her. She claims that she's going to kill herself if he does. Okay, and he says, oh, you're just kidding. You're not going to do nothing like that. So she gets the 9mm, which is in the bedroom, puts it up to her head. When he sees that, he grabs, according to him, he grabs the gun. They struggle over it, and boom.
The detectives noted that down and decided to get the rest of the details from Christopher himself. But first they had to get him to the station.
Chris, you're going to go with us to the station to talk to the detective, okay?
So I'm under arrest.
No, you just been detained right now. And talk to the detective.
Mr. Butler,
No, okay, listen. Explain to them what happened, okay? All right, don't leave nothing out.
He tried to give a statement on the spot so he wouldn't need to go to the police station, but the officer stopped him.
Just take your time and explain to the detective what happened,
She
okay?
was supposed to be changing her clothes.
Okay, all right. You don't have to say nothing now, okay?
Okay.
Hey, step by step, tell the detective everything. Because if he finds out something different,
Nah, I will.
okay, all right, well, hold on.
Christopher was already hesitant, but then he learned that he was going to be in handcuffs.
Okay, this is our policy. We're going to have to put the cuffs on you.
That means I'm under arrest.
No, sir. Whenever you ride in that police car, we have to do it for our safety and yours.
This is where Christopher made another mistake. He stopped crying, as if it was all an act. Instead of worrying about his wife and kids, Chris was more concerned about his phone and wallet.
I give my parents my wallet.
His daughter had a visceral reaction to seeing her father in handcuffs and learning that her mother was dead.
If you can do this, go to this officer right here. Let's go to that officer right here.
But even that did not faze Christopher, who remained completely calm.
You go to this car or just on the side of this thing here, okay? Step on the side.
As he was being walked to the cop car, his daughter kept sobbing and calling out to him. Chris kept walking without showing any emotion, and the only thing he asked for was...
Mama, my wallet.
This sudden shift from acting devastated to being calm made him look suspicious. In contrast, Olivia's family had a much more pronounced reaction.
Where is it? Stop it! What happened? Stop it! Look at me!
Olivia's family was left to grieve as officers went back to the station, with Christopher in the back seat. At the station, he continued to insist on his innocence.
I didn't do this.
Yeah.
People are going to blame me for this.
Well, they don't know what happened.
People are going to blame me for this, Mr. Butler.
His daughters had just lost their mother and were going to be without a father, but all he was worried about was how he was going to be perceived.
I'm going to be condemned whether I'm condemned or not for this. They're going to blame me for this. I didn't do this.
He made the situation about his feelings, and he even called his dead wife selfish for leaving everyone behind.
I don't know how to feel. Selfish.
Still, detectives gave him the benefit of the doubt and asked him to demonstrate how Olivia got shot during the struggle.
Now go ahead and do my initial. She pulls it. Give me the. Okay. And I go. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
I don't
I'm
want the
sorry.
chair.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. So she should be shot in the back of her right head.
Did you feel me twist your? Did you feel me twist?
Switch back here.
Did you feel me twist your?
His story did not add up and was rejected by the victim's own sister.
Has she ever mentioned anything about suicide or wanting to harm herself? Or
she loved her baby so much that she thought she had to live for them. You know, she never thought of anything like that.
After getting statements from multiple people, including Christopher, officers started sifting through the CCTV footage, which poked even more holes in his story. On the morning of the shooting, Olivia was spotted buying flowers for Valentine's Day. She did not look distraught and appeared to be calm even when she returned home. This was 8:41 a.m., just minutes before she was shot, and for the duration of the shooting, the camera seemed to go offline. There was no footage of the incident, even though Christopher had multiple cameras in his house. Investigators grilled Chris about the missing footage.
I look guilty. If I deleted those videos, I look guilty.
Not if you say right now, what did you just say a little while ago? I freaked out. I panicked. I did some stuff I shouldn't have done. Is that one of them?
Yes.
How many did you delete?
I don't know.
While officers could not find the footage of the shooting, they did find other clips that painted a disturbing picture.
Hey, you gonna be looking stupid.
He was berating her for not being thorough with the chores.
Look on the floor, man. Look on the floor. Look on the floor, wife. Look on the floor. Look on the floor. Look on the floor. You're not paying attention. Look, give it here. You got all the damn answers. You don't do a damn thing around this right. You don't pay attention what you doing. You all over the place, Olivia.
Christopher had been doing this since the kids were young and seemed to blame Olivia for their mess as well.
You ain't got the kids to blame no. Food on the floor. Who you blaming now?
me?
Area don't live here. It's you. It's always been you, whether it was them or not. It's you because you teach them how you do.
He had no problem yelling at her, but would get mad if she even looked at him the wrong way.
Then you got the audacity to look at me like I'm stupid. It's the look. The look is what got you snatched.
As the footage showed, Christopher had been bullying his wife. This had a serious effect on her. Olivia suffered in silence as Christopher verbally abused her and installed multiple cameras inside the house to keep an eye on her.
You don't care about what you're feeding people. And that's why you'll never have a successful restaurant. You don't care.
Officers considered that Christopher's abuse might have pushed Olivia to harm herself, but forensics revealed a different story. Officers swabbed Christopher and Olivia's hands for gunpowder residue and found it only on Christopher's hands. In other words, Olivia's hands were nowhere near the gun when it was fired. That, alongside the fact that she had been shot in the back of her head, left room for only one conclusion. Christopher had shot his wife. He was charged with first-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter, to which he pleaded not guilty and went to trial. After seeing the evidence, which included footage from the house, the jury unanimously found Christopher guilty of murder. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison.
Oh, it's hot. Get there.
Smoky?
Kinda.
Yeah, something's burning. This stove is
on. It's like
120 degrees in there.
someone was trying to burn it down.
And we've had a chance to talk with him, and he shared something a little bit different that you had shared with him. Can you tell me a little more about that part of it, though?
What did he say?
He told us something slightly different, and I suspect you might know what he said differently. I got this on. Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
This is Jacob Spray, and he hasn't been able to reach his wife in the last 24 hours. But the more he talks, the more it looks like he is the reason she vanished. Jacob's wife, 25 years old, Jamie Spray, was last heard from during a job interview that happened over the phone. She was interviewing for a cooking position with the Women and Children's Free Restaurant and Community Kitchen. On the other side was Melissa Berry, who thought that Jamie was a great candidate. During the call, Berry heard a scream, which was followed by silence. She called Jamie's Jamie's name a couple of times, but the call dropped. Barry called 911 asking for a wellness check, but she didn't have Jamie's exact address. So the young chef remained off the cops' radar for 24 hours. During the time, they called Jamie's husband, who did not pick up. His excuse? He was at work.
But he called me and I was still working. I have my headphones in. I'm working.
He ultimately pointed the officer to the trailer park where Jamie was living. And when they rolled up to her trailer, they noticed that something was off. For starters, Jamie's truck was parked outside. On top of that, her dog was in the trailer, as was her phone, which kept ringing. But Jamie never picked up.
At the truck? Yeah. He said she should still be at work. He said he was just on his way back.
Oh, who'd you talk to?
Jacob.
Oh.
There's a dog in there.
She has a dog.
The cops knocked on the windows and tried the door handle.
I think she'd take her vehicle to work.
Yeah. Got enough to...
See if that phone rings.
Yeah. You see if the door is open now. It's locked.
Police department.
Jamie!
There was no response from the inside, so Jamie was definitely not in there. But her truck was outside, so where was she? The cops puzzled over this for a while before one of them had an idea.
See if he has a key.
Yeah, might as well.
They got Jacob on the line to ask for a spare key.
Hello? Hello? Oh, I'm sorry. It was switching between my car and my phone. Do you have a key? Okay.
Jacob would later recall what he told the officer over the phone.
I might have called him when I was still in the parking lot, but I feel like I called him when I got here. Gotcha. Because I was just like curious. I'm like, who is this person? And he was like, you got keys to that trailer? So I was just like, one my wife's in? He's like, yeah. And I was like, no, we agreed I wouldn't have any.
After that, the officer asked Jacob's permission to enter the trailer with brute force.
Can we force entry into the trailer?
Jacob didn't want the officer damaging the doors, so he offered to drive Lewiston to get a set of spare keys. The officer wasn't ready to wait that long.
I'm not sure we're gonna wait that long. I'm sorry, but I'm not. If she's actually hurting there, I don't want to wait till you drive to Lewiston in the back. That's an hour and a half.
He took Jacob's advice and tried the windows.
That's an exit window. That's what we're doing now. All right. Call me back at this number if you find something. I will call you back if we find something.
And what he found inside made them cut all contact with Jacob.
Oh, it's hot. Get in there.
Smoky?
Kinda.
Yeah, something's burning. Burner's on.
Jacob was puzzled as to why the officer never called him.
And he goes, I found the window open. I'll call you back. And then he just never called me back. And then I texted him. I started calling Jamie. I couldn't get a hold of Jamie. And it actually rang and rang and rang. It's not like her phone was dead. It went all the way to voicemail. And then I texted her. I texted that guy. And I think I even called. No, I just kept calling him. I was going to say I might have called dispatch, but I did not. I just kept calling him. I was trying to figure it out.
And the reason for that was what the cops found inside. But first they only saw Jamie's dog.
Hello? Oh yeah, Smokey's in here. Hi, dog.
Another officer joined the effort and came up with a creative way to peek further into the trailer.
So here's my only concern is if
there's a dog over there.
So she's right there.
Yeah, I wonder if she's laying here.
Evidence. Here, let me see if I can reach in with my phone.
There's a gun lock right there on the counter. See that?
I don't see. Yeah.
Then they finally hit a breakthrough when the officer shined his light on the table.
Hey, there's some keys right there on the counter. Can you reach them? That would get us in.
What's that? Say that?
Her keys are right there on the end of the table.
Oh yeah.
We can grab those. You got to ask.
No. Oh Jesus, it's hot.
Yeah.
They got the keys. Now the question was if the keys would open the trailer and what they would find inside.
Oh, she's right there on the bed.
She was on the bed for sure, but she wasn't sleeping.
Yeah.
Lividity refers to the purple discoloration of skin that can happen if a body has been left behind for a while. Whoever killed Jamie was trying to make it look like some accident, but it was clear that she hadn't just passed out from the fumes of her stove.
She's got scratches on her neck like someone choked her. I think we're out of luck. Unless the dog scratched at her. Her neck's all bruised. Yeah, it's cold. I don't feel anything in her feet. Well, it's fairly warm.
No breathing.
I don't see any breathing. Hey, can we put the dog in a... Come here, pup. Come here.
Let's throw it in the back.
Car? Yeah, someone tried to burn the stove. There's stuff on the stove.
The officer placed the dog in the back seat while the medics tried to resuscitate Jamie, whose body was warm from the heat of the stove in the RV. She wasn't breathing and she didn't have a pulse. But medics kept trying to bring her back with CPR for almost an hour. But finally her body cooled down enough to indicate that she was really dead. This sparked a homicide investigation where officers had very little to go on. The attack on Jamie, which was heard over the phone, happened an entire day before her body was discovered. The location of the crime scene was a trailer park with no surveillance cameras. The cops had no lead until they talked to a neighbor who lived next door to Jamie.
Hi, I'm Officer Grimmer. Okay, so you live in the
black and white Imagine.
the black Imagine.
Number 7.
Okay, what time did you leave?
I don't know exactly what time I left. I got to the gym at 5:55, so I paid for parking. So the timestamp's on there. So maybe like a little bit before that, maybe like 10-15 minutes before that.
So you were at the gym 5:55. So tell me from like just before you left until you get to the gym.
Yeah, so actually the pizza got delivered as I was changing to go to the gym, so like it all was within like a pretty close time frame. Like,
Okay.
The pizza went to the Mallard, to the white RV, directly next.
Okay.
And then I changed, and I think it was like a little bit after the pizza got delivered that I heard the scream.
And when did you hear the scream? Shortly after?
Yeah, it was like shortly after the pizza got delivered. Like I said, I couldn't really make out what kind of scream it was. I figured it was like an excited scream. I saw that the neighbor had a visitor, which she normally doesn't have. But I saw that she had like somebody else there, and it was like a red SUV. I think it might have been her significant other. I saw them like move their RV the day that like she got here, and it was the RV and then another car. Well, the RV with the truck and then that red car had moved her in, and I did see the guy, and they like kissed. So I'm guessing it was like her significant other.
Okay.
And the cops decided to go to the Domino's that delivered the pizza, hoping that the delivery guy had seen the visitor.
Okay, so I'm trying to track down the delivery driver. Not in trouble. But I need to ask him some pretty sensitive questions. Delivered to a house, and we just need to know what he saw.
Is it a specific address or like a general neighborhood?
I can give you an address.
Finally, the manager was comfortable enough to connect the cop with the employee, but said the employee was out for a delivery.
The driver in question is on a delivery right now. He'll be back in 8 or 9 minutes if you want to talk to him in person.
Yeah.
Or do you want to talk to him in your car?
Yeah, just where it's quieter. So I'll just be sitting in my car. Okay, thanks, man.
When he returned, the officer took his statement, according to which someone in a red pickup truck interrupted him before he could get to Jamie's trailer. The man in the pickup truck claimed the pizza and went into the trailer, so the driver left without ever seeing Jamie. But the details he offered pointed directly at her estranged husband, Jacob, so the cops got ready to talk to him once again.
As far as the timeline today, you said you lost star around 3:51. Is that PM?
Yeah, I was still in Moscow.
Gotcha.
I work in Moscow.
You get
My
contact.
phone's in there charging, but if you want to see it,
in which one?
in my house.
Is that your unit? Sorry.
I'm bottom.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. It goes down.
Hang
That's all right.
tight.
That's all right. That's all right.
Hey,
You can
wait. You don't want me to
No,
get
that's
my
fine. Don't worry about it. You can let it charge or whatever.
Okay.
Jacob seemed to be on edge and way too defensive right off the bat. He over-explained himself even though no one had accused him of any crime. And because of this over-explanation, he contradicted key facts that the officers had already established.
Are you gonna tell me what the fuck this is about? Like, do I need to go to the bank and get bail money or what?
But I'm just trying to figure out, where you've been, where she's been, what's going on with everything.
She hasn't responded to me since you got a hold of me because, like I said, I hadn't talked to her.
And, when did the officer get a hold of you?
I'd have to look at my phone.
He maintained that he had contacted his wife via Snapchat, but was spotted outside the trailer by the delivery driver.
I was just getting off work, and now I can't get a hold of her. I called her sister, and she won't answer my call. All she said was, I can't talk to you right now. And I'm just like literally in tears, freaking the out, and I just don't know what the is going on. And you guys aren't really being forward with me.
Yeah, we're trying to make contact with her and figure out if she's okay. I guess there's some people concerned, so that's kind of what we're following up with everyone.
We're still married. We're filing this Friday, but we've been separated since February 14th.
Jacob tried to go inside to get his phone, but the officers did not want that. Instead, they had him stay outside and answer more questions. When the officers kept grilling Jacob, he started to run out of patience.
You said the truck was there, and you said you heard the phone. So she doesn't really leave. Gotcha. She can't leave home without either one, really. So what the fuck, man? What are you trying to tell me right now?
I'm not telling you anything right now. I'm just kind of trying to figure out what's going on so I can give the officers there. I just got you.
She did hook up with a girl in that trailer park. We lived there like over the summer. This last summer, there was a girl that she used to hook up with, so, and it was like a struggle on our marriage, but she was always like kind of bi.
Jacob then tried to bring up the other persons of interest. Instead of showing concern for Jamie, the officer brought him back to the day of the attack.
So I'm just trying to figure out what happened today. What did she send you, or what was the conversation at you said 3:51, is that this afternoon?
It was this afternoon.
Okay, what was the conversation then?
We were just talking. Like,
Gotcha.
we were just, I had sent her a thing about that song. It's a real popular song right now. Don't Take Her From Me. Like God can give it, God can take it.
Gotcha.
And I said this song will always haunt me.
Jacob continued to paint himself as a loving husband and his wife as a cold woman who had moved on. But in reality, he was giving the officers a clear motive for why he might want to harm her. And as he continued talking, he kept digging himself further into the hole.
Do you have weapons at the home or anything like that?
I would rather not answer that question. Gotcha. I mean, unless
I'm just checking for safety, man. I don't want to.
I don't got them on me.
The officer then asked Jacob about his whereabouts, and his answers could make or break the case regarding his innocence. Jacob was getting uneasy, and what he said right there would come back to haunt him later.
He left me a voicemail, so when I got off, once I got home, I think I was like pulling in. I actually called him back, or I checked the voicemail.
Jacob just confirmed that his phone was with him at work, so if the location data on his device didn't line up with the timeline he gave, it would prove that he was lying. But that wasn't his only mistake. He started talking about possible ways that Jamie could have gotten hurt.
I know she's never coming, not that she's never come back. She's supposed to be here Sunday, and if you would tell me which hospital she's at, I would be more than happy to go see her. I will call an Uber right now, but you're not giving me any information. All you're doing is questioning me, and now I'm starting to worry, like she did some like coke or something with fentanyl or something.
After that, he mentioned calling his dad, and what he said after that is what led up to this.
And then I called my dad, just because I was trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and nobody was talking to me. So,
what's your dad's name?
Randy.
Randy.
Yeah.
What'd you tell him about what's going on?
Not much. I just needed to know what I should do and if I needed to get money, because I thought I was going to have to bail her out or something.
Jamie have any health conditions or anything that you know?
She went to the doctor because she was worried she was like partially autistic. Her little brother's autistic, and she was worried she might have like bipolar or like autism.
Okay.
She got on medication, but it wasn't working the way it was supposed to. So she got off of it. And honestly, I thought she really didn't need it.
While discussing Jamie's health, Jacob started bad-mouthing her and even laughing at her condition.
But other than that, bad knees. She did have asthma, but Honestly, she was not running, not doing anything. Like I said, bad knees and asthma. So she used to run track, and she'd always tell me about that. Like, but I haven't seen her.
Then he asked yet again what had happened, and this time the cops gave him some information but held back a lot more.
Are you gonna like ever tell me what's going on with my wife?
Well, so the concern is that we found her at the trailer, and she's not doing well, and the medics are trying to help her. We're just trying to figure out what is going on and what happened to her and what's going on.
Like what?
So I don't know. That's what we're trying to. So I just they said, hey, come ask him about what happened. He's the last one that knew where she was, as far as we know, and so they're trying to figure out where that is.
I talked to her, like, like we're still friends.
But upon hearing that the cops had found Jamie, Jacob stopped pretending that he was keeping his distance from her. Earlier, he had claimed that they were keeping their distance. But after realizing that the trailer hadn't burned down, he owned up to going to the trailer park. Then he described a very cordial final interaction with Jamie. After that, he started talking about his feelings.
And so it sounds last night everything was cool. You guys weren't fighting or anything like that?
No, everything was fine, and we were fine today too. Everything was fine.
Gotcha.
Like I literally texted her. I said I got the confirmation on our divorce paperwork, so like I'll go pay that on Friday. So we're all good. And she's like, "Do I need to be there?" I said, "No. Like it just sounds to me like I just have to go and show him the stupid email." And we're good. She told me she loved me. I said, "You promise?" She said, "Yes." Like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of needy. Like, I still love her, even though she left me.
He tried to paint himself as a still smitten lover, but the officer recalled something that exposed the opposite. That is where Jacob let the truth slip out.
You said that like she's claimed or was talking about claiming domestic violence. Was there any other physical fights between you guys ever in the past or anything like
So
that?
there was one about spring break of last year. She was pretty amped up about an event she had where she had to fly to California. And it was kind of a cool event. It was like at a winery, but she was feeling the pressure of it. And also she had to like chaperone like I think 12 students, maybe 10, 12 students. So she was just kind of like stressed out. I had an interview the next morning for Whitman County Hospital. So I was stressed out. We both drank. We both were hitting, not hitting each other, but like hitting each other with like words. And I tried to go to bed. She like grabbed me. I ended up macing her.
He had hit his wife before, and now that he had blurted that in front of the cop, he tried to walk it back. That explanation made him look a lot worse.
And she still came at me, now blind, really swinging. And I had like held her, and she went the next day and filed a DV report on me. Showed him the bruises. She ended up not pressing charges. We talked through it.
Gotcha.
But like it was nothing. I think it was just a stress of both of us. You know what I'm saying? Like we just both were like in a position of this is about to be crazy, and can I pull this off?
Then he slipped up once again. He revealed the lengths to which he was willing to go to keep Jamie from leaving him. Once again, he tried to imply that all was well between him and Jamie.
I love her. We'll do it. Do I, like I said earlier, if she were to be like, take me back, I would do it in a heartbeat, even though it's like throwing my whole dignity and my everything away.
He also continued to remind the cops that no one would let Jamie crash with them for long. He had made similar remarks earlier, all this to paint himself as the only one who would do nice things for her, like lending $1,000. But would all this get him out of trouble? Jacob was about to find out. The officer knew that Jacob wasn't being honest, or at least withholding the truth, so he gave him another chance.
What else did you talk to him about?
That was it.
Okay. Would he have told us anything differently?
No.
This is where Jacob should have realized that his dad had already talked to the cops, but instead of questioning his credibility, Jacob went on to praise his father.
How's your relationship with him?
My best friend.
Your father's your best friend? Okay.
He's my hero.
He's your hero?
Yeah. Dude.
Tell me about that.
Well, he's a vet. He worked his ass off at a lumber mill, which ended up breaking his body down. He had to get bone spurs removed out of his neck where they had to pull his esophagus to the side.
Yeah.
And put a cage in on it. He's still going through pain. He's survived 3 different types of cancer. Wow.
All of this made the cops trust his father, who had told him an entirely different story about what had happened with Jamie.
We've had a chance to talk with him, and he shared something a little bit different that you had shared with him. Can you tell me a little more about that part of it, though?
What did he say?
He told us something slightly different, and I suspect you might know what he said differently.
I got this arm. Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Don't you grab it! Don't you grab it! Get on the ground! I got this armpit. That's armpit. I'm locking up. Oh, me! Okay. Oh, man, I'm done. You're under the arrest. I'm done.
They went on to cuff Jacob, which took a while since one of his arms was pinned to the ground. So the cops knew all of this when they arrived at his doorstep, and they let him lie about his whereabouts for an hour. They also scraped his nails for evidence and found Jamie's skin underneath. Forensics also revealed that he had forced himself upon her before her death. Then he choked her to death. Another detail that came out was that Jacob had a restraining order against him filed by his ex-girlfriend, Adriana Clark, whom he dated before marrying Jamie. He had stalked Adriana and threatened to harm himself to keep her from moving on. But unlike Jamie, she managed to get the authorities involved before things took a turn for the worse. Jacob was charged with first-degree murder and first-degree rape, to which he pleaded not guilty. But that didn't matter because the jury found him guilty on both counts. He was ultimately sentenced to 26 years in prison and 3 years of community custody after release. That is the maximum sentence in Washington. Had Jacob been 1 state over, he would have gotten the death penalty.
It was a chilly Sunday afternoon in Waukesha, Wisconsin, the kind of day that smells like pine needles, hot chocolate, and nostalgia. November 21st, 2021, out of nowhere, a red SUV broke through the barricades. It wasn't supposed to be on that street. The road had been closed to vehicles, but this one didn't slow. It accelerated. Eyewitnesses described the moment with stunned horror. The SUV zigzagged deliberately through the crowd, striking one person after another. Some thought the driver was trying to avoid people.
It kept going all the way down the block to People's Park, the stoplight, and continued straight through it.
It's a little bit difficult to process, just especially how fast everything went when we were downtown. You think in hindsight about what response you could have to stop the guy, and it's just, even if I was right in front of it, it would have been hard to stop.
Chaos erupted instantly. Screams replaced carols. Candy bags were dropped.
It's just absolute chaos, people screaming. This doesn't happen here. I don't understand why. I really don't understand why. It's just kids having a good time for Christmas, and then this SUV comes barreling through.
The SUV didn't stop. It continued speeding down Main Street, leaving devastation in its wake. Within the hour, police tracked down the suspect, a man named Darrell Brooks. Surveillance cameras had caught every detail of his erratic escape. He had abandoned the red SUV, a Ford Escape registered in his mother's name, and attempted to hide in a nearby backyard. He knocked on a stranger's door, shivering, claiming to be waiting for an Uber.
Hey, I called an Uber, and I'm supposed to be waiting for it over here, but I don't know when it's coming. Can you call it for me, please?
But it was all a lie. As the town reeled from the horror, the story behind the man began to unravel. Darrell Brooks was no mystery. He had a 2-decade-long criminal history, spanning multiple states. Just weeks before the parade, he had been released on a $1,000 bond after allegedly using that same SUV to run over his ex-girlfriend. Now 6 people were dead, dozens more scarred for life. But this case wasn't just about a terrible act of violence. What followed was one of the most bizarre and confounding trials in American criminal history. Because Darrell Brooks didn't hire a lawyer, he didn't accept a plea deal. Instead, he chose to represent himself. What unfolded in the courtroom over the following weeks would leave legal experts stunned, victims re-traumatized, and viewers around the country questioning how justice could survive such madness. This is the story of the Waukesha Christmas Parade tragedy, a case that would test the limits of empathy, accountability, and sanity. A town's cherished tradition turned into a battlefield, and one man's descent into chaos, live streamed in real time for the world to see. Long before the horror unfolded on Main Street, Darrell Brooks had left behind a trail of red flags, scattered across multiple states and decades. Born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1982, Brooks grew up in a turbulent household. By his own account, he was first treated for mental illness at the age of 12. Diagnosed with bipolar disorder and a personality disorder, he cycled through medications, therapies, and crises. His mother, Dawn Woods, would later say that without treatment, he became explosive.
I've been hearing Darrell slowly slipping for the past 2 months. Shouting, it's acting out, it's throwing chairs, it's destroying things. It's all of the above. It's like someone setting off a timer. Know when the manic is going to end and how far it's going to go.
But Brooks didn't just battle his own demons. He inflicted pain on others. By the late 1990s, he had already begun racking up charges: battery, resisting arrest, possession of drugs. In 2006, he moved to Nevada, where things got worse. That year, Brooks was convicted of statutory sexual seduction after impregnating a 15-year-old girl. He was 24 at the time. As a result, he was required to register as a offender, a status he repeatedly violated in the years that followed.
I thought I would just be this wonderful father, just be the greatest dad ever. You know, the vision is just like, I'm going to give him everything that I didn't have. But then it's like reality set in. You actually become the drug, not even a human being. Basically, that's how I felt. Like I wasn't a human anymore. I was just something vile, disgusting, despicable. I could go on. I could use a lot of words, but that's what I became. It's really what I became.
After returning to Wisconsin, Brooks cycled in and out of jail throughout the 2010s. The charges stacked up: strangulation, battery, domestic violence, bail jumping. Many involved women, often romantic partners, who describe Brooks as volatile and controlling. Despite his extensive record, many of his cases ended in plea deals, dismissals, or light sentences. The system, it seemed, was always one step behind him. By 2021, Brooks was once again in trouble, and once again, dangerously close to the edge. In early November, just weeks before the parade, he was arrested for using his SUV to run over his ex-girlfriend, Erica Patterson. The incident occurred during a heated argument in a gas station parking lot. He was charged with recklessly endangering safety, but remarkably released on bail just days later. The amount? $1,000. That decision would soon draw national outrage. How could someone with such a history of violence, instability, and disregard for the law be out on the streets? In the lead-up to the Waukesha attack, Brooks's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He posted videos online, including music videos featuring himself rapping in front of the same red SUV later used in the attack. His lyrics hinted at paranoia, rage, and a general disdain for authority. Brooks insisted the court had no authority over him. He claimed that being referred to by name violated his rights.
How would you describe Mr. Brooks's haircut today?
Objection, I don't consent to being called that name.
Oh. Sir, I understand your objection. Please do not interrupt with that further so that the questioning of the witnesses may continue. You may answer.
If you say that name, I'm objecting.
And the jury will disregard the objection if it's solely for the name purposes.
He objected to all evidence, all witnesses, even the legitimacy of the charges themselves. To him, the system was fictional. But to the victims and their families, his destruction was all too real. There is no single explanation for Darrell Brooks. He is the product of untreated mental illness, systemic gaps, violent tendencies, and personal failures. He is a cautionary tale about how the justice system can miss or ignore the warning signs. And he is a symbol of how delusion and violence can combine to create devastation on a scale that no one saw coming. What led him to snap that day remains a matter of speculation. Was it the argument with Erica, the pressure of his crumbling life, or a deeper, darker detachment from reality? What's certain is that Darrell Brooks was not an unknown threat. He had been known, documented, arrested, charged, and released, time and time again. Until finally, there was no more room for leniency, only reckoning. Sunday, November 21st, 2021, began like any other parade day in Waukesha, Wisconsin. The town buzzed with energy. Performers lined up in sequence. Families filled the sidewalks along Main Street. Children clutched paper cups of cocoa, their noses red from the cold. At 4:39 p.m., that sense of safety vanished. Witnesses say a red Ford Escape appeared from a side street blocked to traffic. The SUV paused briefly, enough to draw attention but not concern. Then it accelerated. A witness recalled hearing the engine rev loudly before the vehicle surged forward, breaking through barricades and entering the parade route. The horror was immediate.
216, I need another at Hartwell and White Rock. I have another person reported being assaulted. Okay.
He ran the other car. Right now we're just talking.
Wisconsin and West, I'm checking for injuries. There was someone running through the parade route at a high rate of speed. 3206, 1078, 1078. Okay. 102! It is 1078! We have about 10 to 15 people down on the street!
Who assaulted you? Who ran?
We're arguing.
What is your name? Say your name.
P-R-I-K-A-T-H-E-R-S-A.
Harris, what's your date of birth?
October 7, 1990.
So, 10/7/1990? Erica Patterson? Okay. Okay.
The SUV drove directly into the crowd, striking marchers from behind. At first, some onlookers thought it was an accident, maybe a medical emergency, a driver who lost control. But the SUV didn't stop. It kept going. The vehicle honked intermittently, swerved from side to side, and appeared to intentionally veer toward groups of people. Several witnesses would later describe it as zigzagging, not to avoid bodies, but to hit more of them. One by one, victims were struck with brutal force. The dancing grannies bore the brunt of the first wave. Tamara Duran, 52, was marching with them for the first time. Virginia Jenny Sorensen, 79, and Leanna Owen, 71, both longtime members, were also hit. Wilhelm Hospel, 81, wasn't marching. He was there to support his wife, but he was killed nonetheless. Jane Kulik, 52, was walking alongside a Citizens Bank float when she was hit. The chaos spread rapidly. People screamed, ran, dove to the ground. Children were torn from parents in the stampede. Witnesses reported seeing bodies in the street, shoes flung across the pavement, candy bags abandoned mid-reach. Emergency responders already on the scene rushed in to help. Bystanders joined them, performing CPR, applying pressure to wounds, and dragging the injured to safety. Gunshots rang out, but they weren't from the vehicle. Police had opened fire in an attempt to stop the SUV. It didn't work. The vehicle continued for several blocks, tearing through a packed intersection, blowing past stoplights and vanishing into the nearby neighborhoods. In total, 62 people were injured. 18 of them were children. 8-year-old Jackson Sparks, marching with his baseball team, would die days later in the hospital. His 12-year-old brother, Tucker, survived but sustained serious injuries. The attack was over in minutes, but its damage would last forever. While emergency crews stabilized the wounded and secured the area, police launched a rapid search for the driver. Less than a mile from the parade, a neighbor reported seeing a red SUV in his driveway. The vehicle had cut through his backyard and sideswiped another car before being abandoned. Surveillance footage soon confirmed the driver. A man in dreadlocks, gray hoodie, later seen shedding his sweatshirt and hiding in a child's backyard playhouse. At 5:01 p.m., just 22 minutes after the massacre began, Daryl Brooks knocked on the door of a nearby home. The owner, Daniel Ryder, had just returned from a hunting trip and was unaware of what had occurred. Brooks, shivering, claimed he was waiting for an Uber.
Hey, I called an Uber, and I'm supposed to be waiting for it over here, but I don't know when it's coming. Can you call it for me, please?
Ryder let him in, offered a jacket and a sandwich, and allowed him to use his phone. Minutes later, as sirens blared and officers flooded the street, Ryder asked the man to leave. Brooks complied, but returned soon after, banging on the door, claiming he forgot his ID.
My ID! My ID!
By the time officers arrived, Brooks was still nearby.
Huh?
Hands up! Put your hands where I can see them!
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Put your hands where I can see them! Put your hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Do it now! Hey,
take him to the hospital.
He was arrested without incident. In his pocket was a key to the red Ford Escape. The vehicle was registered to his mother. At the station, Brooks initially denied everything. He said a friend drove him to Waukesha. He denied driving the SUV. He denied hitting anyone.
I'm trying to be as open and honest with you as I can be. You know, I'm Christian too, and believe me, I'm not perfect. And neither are you. And I'm not calling you a terrible man. I'm not saying you were out yesterday hunting, and just let me finish. But you did not walk to that house. You did not walk to that house. You did not come here in a tan Kia. You didn't.
Tell me who?
You did not come out here in a tan Kia. Okay? You got a key in your pocket, your car, your mom's name. Okay? And that key works for that car. For the love of God, Marcus. For yourself, for your family. You know what happened yesterday for the people. Tell me what happened.
Well, what?
With the car.
What am I being
with your mom's car? You were driving goofy, people called in, you drove out of there in your mom's car, the red car, you're driving a little silly, probably because you're pissed. You met up with Erica in the car at the park. Now, initially, I believe you told us the gas station. Do I have that right? A red Ford Escape. She got in, you talked, and what you're telling me seems pretty consistent, that there was nothing physical between the two of you.
No.
But you met her in the car.
I didn't put my hands on her.
But you met her in the car.
Tim, what's going on, man?
Asking you a question.
You
were out there driving kind of crazy. Some people said you were driving kind of crazy. We got reports of it. You got the key, you got the car. Did you take the car or did your mom give you the car? I know you know what car I'm talking about.
I just want to know. So,
some people reported, all those people out there reported that
No.
car driving a bit erratic.
I know what you're saying. All I'm saying is this. We all been straight up with each other. You knew it was more to what you was asking me yesterday.
Didn't know
that
for
would
sure.
explain the FBI and all that, right?
They're not here today. So if it's that big a deal, you don't see them here today.
Come on, Kurt. Hey, we been.
You guys met in the car. In the park.
We been cool, man, the whole time. If I did something wrong,
that's why they were here. But do you see them here today? They're not here today.
Yeah, but But y'all lied to me, man. You made it seem like they just come for no reason.
Well, here's the thing, Darrell.
And I'm like, what
Hey,
if it's
listen to me for a minute.
I apologize.
I can give you a clean slate here.
I apologize.
Because you have lied to us as well. Because you came out here in the red Ford Escape. Okay, that is what you came out here in. You had the key. Alright?
But the evidence was overwhelming. Cameras, witnesses, forensic data, even his own music video showing him rapping beside the very same red SUV. The rampage on Main Street was not a crash. It was not an accident. It was an attack. Deliberate, cold, and devastating. 6 people lost their lives. Dozens more would carry the scars, physical and emotional, forever. In the hours following Darrell Brooks' arrest, the small city of Waukesha found itself the focus of national attention. Police announced that they were no longer searching for a suspect. They had him in custody, along with the vehicle and a mountain of video evidence.
We're no longer looking for a suspect vehicle. We do have a person of interest in custody at the moment, but this is still a very fluid investigation.
But the investigation had only begun. Detectives quickly pieced together a timeline. Brooks had been involved in a heated confrontation with his ex-girlfriend, Erica Patterson, shortly before the attack. Security footage showed her exiting the red SUV, followed by Brooks and 2 other men. The argument escalated off camera. Patterson later told police Brooks had struck her in the face. A 911 call falsely claimed he had a knife. Minutes later, Brooks got back in the SUV and sped off, straight toward Main Street. Law enforcement also uncovered disturbing details about Brooks's history. He had a long rap sheet that spanned over 2 decades and included domestic violence, sex offenses, bail jumping, and resisting arrest. But what truly outraged the public was the fact that he had been released on a mere $1,000 bond just days before the massacre, for using the same SUV to run over Erica in a previous incident. As the shock wore off, the judicial process began. Brooks was charged with 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide, 1 for each victim who died, along with more than 70 additional charges tied to injuries and reckless endangerment. His bail was set at $5 million. Still, he entered a plea of not guilty. In early 2022, Brooks's legal strategy took a strange turn. He entered an insanity plea, only to later revoke it. In September, his public defenders filed a motion to withdraw from the case. The reason? Brooks insisted on representing himself. That decision would transform the trial into a surreal and often chaotic spectacle. From the first day of court, Brooks challenged the system. He claimed to be a sovereign citizen, a fringe belief that one is not subject to U.S. laws or court authority.
Jurisdiction has to be proven for the record. Has to be proven. Has to be proven. You know that just as well as...
Mr. Brooks,
you know that.
Please do not make statements that mischaracterize the law.
You know it has to be proven
or that
for the
impugn
record.
the integrity of this
You
court.
know it has to be proven
and the
on the
proceedings
record.
here.
You know
The
it
jury
has
is
to be proven.
advised to disregard the statements that Mr. Brooks is making regarding subject matter jurisdiction. They are not evidence, and you are to disregard them.
He argued that the court lacked jurisdiction over him, that his name was misused in all caps letters, and that no one could prove he was the person identified in the case. At nearly every hearing, he interrupted judges, questioned the legitimacy of witnesses, and argued over basic courtroom procedures. Judge Jennifer Dorau, tasked with presiding over the case, showed remarkable patience. But Brooks tested the limits of the court daily. When he disrupted proceedings, he was removed from the courtroom.
Ain't nobody gonna talk to me like that. Nobody. I don't have a problem with doing what you ask me to do, not tell me. Just like when I asked you about subject matter jurisdiction that you have yet to prove on the record. But somehow I'm being intentionally disruptive. Come on, man. Stop. Just stop it. No, there ain't no please.
You are
nothing.
being disruptive.
Ain't
You
no
are
please,
being
nothing.
disrespectful.
You're always
The
going to
witness
find
may
some
step
reason to
down.
say somebody's being disruptive because they want the truth to be out there. Man, quit it. You're supposed to be the
Mr.
judge.
Brooks, I'm advising you that continued interruptions will result in you forfeiting your right to be present
and
in this
under what law and
during
fact can you do that?
Illinois versus Allen.
Okay, but the fourth option that you made up that's not even in the law.
Mr.
Because you
Brooks,
can't do that.
I need to make a
By law, you
ruling.
can't do that.
I need to
And
make
you
a
know you
finding.
can't.
All right, I'm going to excuse everyone. Mr. Brooks is being removed from the courtroom. He will continue in the neighboring courtroom. Please make sure he has his objection signed and a pad.
And sent to a neighboring room where he could participate via video, often seen holding up a handwritten sign reading "Objection." On several occasions, he refused to wear proper courtroom attire or hid behind stacks of legal boxes. At one point, he stripped off his shirt mid-hearing and threatened to destroy court property. Despite the chaos the trial pressed forward, the prosecution built its case on a foundation of overwhelming evidence. Video footage captured every stage of the attack, from the parade route to Brooks's attempt to flee. Dozens of witnesses took the stand, including police officers, parade participants, victims, medical personnel, and even the neighbor who sheltered Brooks before realizing who he was. A forensic inspection of the red SUV found no mechanical defects. The idea that the vehicle couldn't stop was refuted.
Which brings me back to the vehicle. What if the vehicle couldn't stop because of the malfunction?
Objection, fact, not in evidence.
What if the driver of the vehicle was unable to stop the vehicle? Does that make the driver a crazed, or not crazed, a rage? Does that make the driver in a rage and intent on killing people? You have the decision.
In a bold move, prosecutors introduced a music video in which Brooks rapped in front of the same red Ford Escape used in the attack, further linking him to the vehicle and reinforcing the intentional nature of his actions. But proving intent, not just identity, was crucial.
Just testified that this was the alleged defendant. How do you know that? Can you see a face?
Which question are you asking? Those were two.
Can you see the face on the circled individual in that exhibit?
In this clip, I cannot see the face of the person that is circled.
So how do you know who it is?
I can tell who that is because I have watched this video in its entirety, and I can tell that it is you based on all of my contacts with you.
Prosecutors argued that even if Brooks was enraged, confused, or panicked, his decision to continue driving through the parade without stopping clearly showed intent to kill. Intent, they said, is in the act itself.
In this case has always been, why did this happen? What was he thinking? Why did he do this? Again, those are things I don't necessarily have to prove to you. His intent, I do have to prove, and I submit without any doubt. There's overwhelming evidence that this was an intentional act by Darrell Brooks and an act of utter disregard for human life. I say that for these reasons, folks. Number one, first and foremost, just stop driving. That's intent, folks. No reasonable person is going to come across a group of teenagers playing band instruments, drive over them and keep going.
Brooks maintained his innocence throughout. He claimed the prosecution failed to prove their case. He challenged the identity of witnesses, asked bizarre questions, and made rambling final statements that seemed more philosophical than legal. The jury, however, was not confused. After less than 2 hours of deliberation, they returned a unanimous verdict: guilty on all 76 counts, including 6 for first-degree intentional homicide. Each homicide charge carried a mandatory life sentence. Sentencing was set for mid-November, with over 30 victims expected to deliver impact statements. The trial was over.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Darrell E. Brooks, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
But the trauma it revealed was only beginning to surface. What remained was a community trying to heal and a country reckoning with how one man, failed by the justice system and driven by a maelstrom of violence and delusion, brought unimaginable horror to a day meant for joy. As the verdict echoed through the courtroom, guilty on all counts, there was no applause, just quiet sobs, the sound of people breathing again after holding their grief for weeks. Darrell Brooks stood motionless, the man who had transformed a holiday celebration to a crime scene. now sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. But for Waukesha, no sentence could undo what had already been done. In the weeks that followed, victim impact statements poured in. Family members of the deceased described a loss so deep that language failed them.
Discussion since the verdict was announced that perhaps a decision to represent himself is grounds for an appeal. Are you concerned at all about that?
Well, Mr. Brooks has a right to an appeal. Every defendant does. And I fully expect him to take advantage of his rights as a convicted defendant in this case. I am very confident in the record that Judge Darrow made and his decision to represent himself. Yes.
They spoke not just of the people who had died, Tamara, Ginny, Leanna, Wilhelm, Jane, and little Jackson Sparks, but of the holes they left behind. Spouses now slept alone. Children faced birthdays without parents. Classmates left seats empty for friends who would never return. Parents of injured children described nights filled with nightmares and hospital visits. Some survivors would never walk the same again. Others carried internal scars, invisible to the world, but no less real. Counselors and trauma teams descended on schools and community centers, trying to help a town find language for the unspeakable. At the heart of it all was the question that had haunted prosecutors, reporters, and ordinary citizens alike. Why? What could possibly drive someone to do something so cruel, so senseless? The court had proved intent, but the motive remained a mystery.
Big things in this case has always been, why did this happen? What was he thinking? Why did he do this? Again, those are things I don't necessarily have to prove to you. His intent, I do have to prove, and I submit without any doubt. There's overwhelming evidence that this was an intentional act by Darrell Brooks and an act of utter disregard for human life. I say that for these reasons, folks. Number one, first and foremost, just stop driving. That's intent, folks. No reasonable person is going to come across a group of teenagers playing band instruments, drive over them and keep going.
Even Brooks's rambling defenses and erratic behavior offered no clear explanation. Rage, mental illness, delusion, all were possible, but none were certain.
What has led to Darrell's behavior?
His mental illness, not being medicated. He says, you know, Mama, I'm fighting for my life. And I said, I know that, baby. But we have to look at reality for what it is.
What is it?
You know, I said, you did do what they said you did, even though it wasn't intentional, but you did, you know, and you're going to have to go to prison.
Darrell's not an attorney. How do you think he's going to handle the proceedings?
I'm going to, and I hate to say this, you're going to see manic, full-blown. That's what you're going to see.
In the public eye, the case became a lightning rod for broader issues. The fact that Brooks had been released on a $1,000 bond days before the attack ignited national debate over bail reform and judicial discretion. Critics pointed to a broken system that allowed a repeat violent offender to be free while prosecutors waited for court dates. Lawmakers vowed to review bail policies. For some, it was too late. The damage had already been done. Brooks, now serving multiple life sentences, continues to claim that he was misunderstood, misrepresented, misidentified, even as his own words, videos, and actions paint a picture of undeniable guilt. His courtroom antics, once seen as mental instability, are now viewed by many as part of a calculated strategy to undermine the process and set the stage for appeal. An appeal he has promised. Whether or not he succeeds, most legal experts agree the trial itself was unusually thorough. Judge Jennifer Doro's handling of the proceedings, despite repeated disruptions, was widely praised. Prosecutors presented an airtight case. The jury remained composed through weeks of emotional testimony. In a system often criticized for its flaws, this case was, at the very least, a demonstration of due process prevailing against chaos. But while the legal chapter may be closing, Waukesha's healing is far from complete. A memorial now stands at the site of the parade, where flowers, teddy bears, and handwritten notes testify to the lives lost. Each November, a moment of silence is held in their honor. The parade continues, but with heightened security, a changed route, and a somber air that wasn't there before. Survivors, too, are finding ways to move forward. Some have started foundations. Others speak publicly about trauma and resilience. Families like the Sparks have become symbols not only of tragedy but of strength, willing to face the darkest day of their lives in order to honor those they loved. In the end, this was more than a story about one man's violence. It was about a community's strength, about the fragility of peace and how quickly it can be stolen, about the courage to testify, to grieve publicly, and to rebuild when the world watches your worst day unfold on live television. The people of Waukesha did not choose to become a symbol, but in the wake of tragedy, they have become one of compassion, resilience, and justice hard won. The scars remain, yes, but so does the memory of what was lost and the determination that it never be forgotten. If you found this deep dive into the Waukesha Christmas Parade case informative, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with others who care about justice and true crime storytelling. Your support helps us continue creating thoughtful, in-depth content on the cases that matter.
Everybody's telling me right now, there's people out there planning to come get me, bro. People coming here to tell my family that there's people that want to kidnap me or they're threatening to kidnap me. Even last night, I'm scared a little bit. I'm scared.
I don't wanna go, just only you and me.
Why?
I'm afraid. I'm afraid if we don't have somebody with us.
On the night of October 17th, 2024, deep in the rural shadows of Sibuco, Zamboanga del Norte, a terrifying chain of events unfolded. The evening was warm, the kind that made the jungle hum with restless energy.
Scared here. Dangerous people. I always have to hide. See, looks like that guy had a gun. There's like so many of them. There's like 4 of them. And they're looking at us. They're at me.
But for one American YouTuber, that night would mark the beginning of a nightmare. A sharp knock echoed through the dimly lit home where 26-year-old Elliot Eastman lived with his wife. What started as a quiet evening would spiral into chaos within moments. The men at the door claimed to be police officers. They were armed, their presence intimidating. Before Elliot could react, the situation turned violent. Gunshots rang out in the night. 2, maybe 3. Blood stained the floor. Elliot was hit, his body racked with pain, but there was no time to fight back. He was dragged from his home, his screams swallowed by the darkness. Outside, a motorized banca, a small wooden boat, waited on the shore. Without hesitation, his captors forced him aboard and sped off into the open sea, vanishing into the night like ghosts. The village fell silent, but the horror had only just begun. The next morning, whispers spread like wildfire. Who were these men? Why had they taken Elliot? His wife, desperate and terrified, alerted the authorities. Search teams were deployed, interrogations began, and soon a tangled web of secrets and danger began to emerge. But as days turned to weeks, the silence around Elliot's fate grew heavier, suffocating any hope of a safe return. By December, the case took an even darker turn. Rumors surfaced, suspects were arrested, and then came the chilling conclusion from investigators, one that no one wanted to believe. But without a body, without undeniable proof, one question still lingers like a ghost on the waves. What really happened to Elliot Eastman?
So we made it to the mountain and we're gonna do some swimming with some girls.
Elliot Eastman was more than just an American tourist exploring a foreign land. He was a man searching for something deeper. Born and raised in the quiet, picturesque state of Vermont, he had always felt a pull toward the unknown. Growing up, he was fascinated by stories of adventure, of people who left behind the comfort of the familiar to chase something bigger. He was never the type to settle for an ordinary life. Instead, he longed for new experiences, new cultures, and a life outside the confines of small-town America.
No tourist has ever visited this area. I'm like the first one who's ever... Well, I think there's been people who have visited, but they only stay like a day.
As he entered adulthood, Elliot discovered a passion for storytelling through video. He launched a YouTube channel, initially just for fun, capturing his travels, his thoughts, and the people he met along the way. His content wasn't flashy or overly produced. His charm was in his authenticity. He had an ability to connect with people, to show life as it was, unfiltered and real. Slowly, he built an audience of fellow dreamers, travelers, and those who lived vicariously through his lens. His subscribers admired his courage, leaving behind a predictable life to embrace the uncertainty of the world. But Elliot wasn't just a traveler. He was a man chasing love and belonging. In 2023, he made a life-changing decision. He moved to the Philippines, a place he had visited and fallen in love with. But it wasn't just the stunning beaches or the warmth of the culture that captivated him. It was a woman. He met and married a local Filipina, choosing to settle in Zamboanga del Norte, a region known for its rugged beauty, but also its dangers. To friends and family back home, it seemed like a dream.
If I was going to go back to the States to do that, I'd have to get my license. I'd have to renew my license. Maybe I'm going to go to the States soon, yeah. It's very possible. Obviously, this place isn't the most safe place for, like, somebody like me. Yeah, that's like a smart idea, honestly. Just get some quick delivery cash and come back. Not a bad idea.
Elliot had carved out a new life, far from the cold winters of Vermont, in a place where adventure was always just outside his doorstep. But beneath the surface, his new life may not have been as idyllic as it seemed. The region where he settled wasn't a typical tourist destination. It was remote, unpredictable, and at times dangerous. While Elliot saw it as an opportunity for an authentic experience, others may have seen him as an outsider, a target. His growing online presence made him visible, perhaps to the wrong people. And as he embraced his new home, he may not have realized the shadows that lurked around him. What started as a journey of love and adventure would soon turn into a chilling mystery, one that would leave more questions than answers. It was supposed to be just another quiet evening in the remote town of Cebuco, Zamboanga del Norte. The humid air clung to the night as Elliot Eastman sat in his modest home, likely winding down after another day in his adopted country. But at some point that night, October 17th, 2024, everything changed. A sharp knock at the door shattered the stillness, and in an instant, Elliot's fate was sealed. Outside, several men stood waiting. They were armed and dressed as police officers, their presence demanding compliance. To anyone else, they might have seemed like legitimate authorities, but something was off.
Check out all these cool boats, y'all. So very different. We got a Wi-Fi right here, but right now it is not working because we don't have enough battery in our solar to make it run. And it's already here at the end of the day. The solar is no battery.
Before Elliot could question their intent, the situation escalated. The men forced their way in, and what happened next was nothing short of terrifying. Chaos erupted, shouting, struggling, then gunshots. Elliot was shot at least twice, once in the leg, once in the abdomen. But even wounded, he was given no mercy. His captors dragged him from his home, his wife and neighbors powerless to stop it. Outside, the men hurried him onto a waiting motorized banca, a small wooden boat often used by locals to navigate the waters of the region. The engine roared to life, and within moments the vessel disappeared into the vast dark sea. Elliot's blood trailed behind, a silent witness to his suffering, but soon even that was swallowed by the waves. When the morning sun rose, the nightmare was undeniable. Elliot was gone. Authorities were called, and an immediate investigation was launched. But in the rural stretches of the Philippines, justice moved slowly. The search led to whispers, rumors of criminal groups operating in the region, of ransom demands that never came, of enemies Elliot never knew he had. As days turned to weeks, fear and uncertainty loomed. By December, a horrifying theory emerged that Elliot had succumbed to his injuries soon after the abduction and that his body had been discarded at sea, lost forever. But no body has ever been found. No final proof of what truly happened that night has surfaced. And the question that still haunts those who knew him remains. Was Elliot Eastman just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was this something more sinister, something planned, something personal? When news of Elliot Eastman's abduction spread, a sense of urgency gripped both local authorities and the expat community in the Philippines. His wife, distraught and terrified, immediately contacted the police, pleading for help. The crime had been swift, violent, and deliberate. This was no random act of petty theft or opportunistic crime. It was calculated. Elliot had been targeted. But by the time the authorities mobilized, the trail had already begun to grow cold. Investigators began their work by interviewing witnesses, neighbors who had heard the gunfire, seen the armed men, and watched in horror as Elliot was dragged away. But beyond their statements, physical evidence was scarce. Bloodstains confirmed Elliot had been shot, but without his body, it was impossible to determine whether he had survived the initial attack. Authorities scoured the coastline, searching for any sign of the boat that had taken him or a possible drop-off location. But the waters of the Sulu Sea are vast, and if Elliot had been taken far offshore, the chances of finding him were already slim. With few immediate leads, authorities turned to a familiar motive in cases like these: kidnapping for ransom. The Philippines, particularly the southern regions, has a history of abductions, often carried out by criminal groups or insurgents seeking financial gain. If Elliot's captors intended to demand a ransom, his family and the U.S. Embassy braced for a call. But days passed. No ransom request came. There was no communication from the kidnappers, no demands, no sign that Elliot was still alive. This silence was ominous. It suggested that the people who had taken him never intended to negotiate. As days turned into weeks, investigators broadened their focus. If money wasn't the motive, then what was? Authorities began looking into Elliot's life, both in the Philippines and back home in the U.S. Was there anyone who wanted to harm him? Had he unknowingly made enemies? One theory suggested that Elliot's growing online presence may have made him a target. He had documented his life in the Philippines for his YouTube audience, sharing details about his location and lifestyle. While his content wasn't controversial, it was enough to make him visible. Was someone watching from the shadows, waiting for an opportunity? Another possibility pointed to personal conflict. Elliot had married a local woman and was living in an area where foreign men weren't always welcomed with open arms. Did his relationship spark jealousy or resentment? Some locals whispered about land disputes, unpaid debts, or tensions between expats and the community. Could Elliot have unknowingly crossed the wrong people? Authorities also considered the darker side of the region, criminal organizations and armed groups known to operate in Zamboanga del Norte. The area had long been associated with insurgent activity, and foreign nationals had been abducted before. But most of those kidnappings had clear patterns: ransom demands, negotiations, and, at times, eventual releases. Elliot's case didn't fit the mold. Months passed with little progress until December 2024, when authorities made their first major breakthrough. Several suspects were arrested in connection to Elliot's disappearance. Under questioning, some of them revealed chilling details. Elliot had been badly wounded during the abduction, and they believed he hadn't survived long afterward. Even more disturbing, they claimed his body had been disposed of at sea, an act that ensured no evidence would ever be recovered.
What do you make of local police making a public statement like this, that this young man is feared dead? And to make that announcement without the body is pretty significant, no?
It is, but when you have so much evidence and witness statements, and maybe one of the kidnappers that was involved in this giving us a sworn statement as well, you come to a logical conclusion of his death, and you owe it to the family of this young man to give them the information of his possible death. And it's sad and it's tragic, you know, especially living overseas, you run the risk of resentment, like you said, with his wife and other things. You know, no matter what your status is in the United States, when you're in a foreign country, especially one like this, you're perceived as rich. no matter what your status is in the United States. And I think they fed off that, and what that was the motive of this kidnapping.
For investigators, this information was devastating. Without a body, proving murder was difficult. The Philippine National Police and the U.S. government continued pushing for answers. But the deeper they dug, the more elusive the truth became.
Well, they can lead that investigation because it's a U.S. citizen. And we have the responsibility, or the FBI has the responsibility of taking care of U.S. citizens, even on foreign soil. So they can run the investigation through the U.S. Embassy in that area.
Can they take any sort of action?
Sure. Oh, yeah. You can develop a case. It would probably be on the West Coast. Maybe the LA office might be running that in conjunction with U.S. Embassy. And whatever that United States Attorney's Office is in that area could open an investigation on this, especially that you have one person in custody. If you can really prove that that individual was part of this kidnapping, he can certainly be charged in the United States.
Suspects provided conflicting stories, and those who might have known more either refused to speak or disappeared themselves. Despite the arrests and confessions, Elliot Eastman's case remains shrouded in mystery. If he was taken for ransom, why was there never a demand? If it was a personal vendetta, who ordered it, and why? If criminals had orchestrated the attack, did they act alone, or were there higher powers at play? His family and friends refused to give up hope, but with no body and no definitive proof of his fate, the haunting question remains: what really happened to Elliot Eastman? Months after Elliot Eastman vanished into the night, the investigation took a dramatic turn. In December 2024, Philippine authorities announced a series of arrests related to his abduction. The suspects, a mix of local men with known criminal ties, were taken into custody after weeks of covert surveillance and intelligence gathering. Their connections to the case were murky at first, but under pressure, some of them began to talk. What they revealed only deepened the mystery and the horror. According to statements from the arrested men, Elliot had been gravely wounded during the abduction. He had been shot in the leg and abdomen before being taken by boat into the open sea. Some of the suspects claimed that due to the severity of his injuries, he didn't survive for long. Others suggested something even darker, that Elliot may have been executed to eliminate any chance of escape. The most chilling claim? That his body had been thrown into the ocean, ensuring that no physical evidence would ever be recovered. These confessions sent shockwaves through both the local community and international media. If true, it meant Elliot was never meant to return. His disappearance wasn't just an abduction, but an execution. But despite these grim admissions, investigators faced a critical problem. Without a body, proving murder was nearly impossible. Even with suspects in custody, authorities struggled to piece together a clear and consistent narrative. Some suspects contradicted each other, offering vague or conflicting details. Others remained silent, refusing to cooperate despite interrogation. And perhaps most troubling of all, who had ordered this attack? Had Elliot been targeted by a local crime syndicate? Was it a personal vendetta disguised as a random act of violence? Or was it something even more complex, an abduction that had gone horribly wrong? As authorities pressed for answers, several theories began to emerge, each offering a different explanation for Elliot Eastman's disappearance. One possibility was that his abduction had started as a kidnapping for ransom scheme, a crime not uncommon in the region. However, if Elliot was shot early in the attack, the captors may have panicked, realizing that a wounded hostage was more of a liability than an asset. With no way to demand ransom from a dying man, they may have chosen to dispose of him at sea, eliminating any trace of their crime. Another theory suggested that Elliot's disappearance was the result of a personal grudge. Living as a foreigner in a rural, often unpredictable area, he may have unknowingly made enemies, whether through financial disputes, land ownership issues, or even personal relationships. In this scenario, his abduction was not a random act of violence, but a premeditated attack, carefully planned to make it look like a botched kidnapping rather than an intentional act of revenge. Perhaps the most unsettling theory was that of a cover-up. Some of Elliot's supporters feared that the men arrested were merely pawns, scapegoats put forward to satisfy public demand for justice, while the true masterminds remained hidden. If powerful individuals were involved, whether criminals, corrupt officials, or those with personal motives, they may have used their influence to erase evidence, silence witnesses, and manipulate the narrative. In this version of events, Elliott's disappearance wasn't just a crime, it was a secret being deliberately buried. With the suspects in custody, authorities faced the challenge of building a solid case without a body. The prosecution relied heavily on witness testimony, forensic evidence from the crime scene, and the confessions of those arrested. But in a region where corruption and fear often silenced key witnesses, the truth remained elusive. For Elliott's family back in the U.S., the arrest brought no closure, only more questions. Was justice truly being served, or were the real culprits still out there, protected by silence and power? Without a body, without undeniable proof, one question continued to haunt the investigation. Was Elliott Eastman truly gone, or was there more to the story than anyone was willing to admit? As the case moved to trial, the search for justice became even more complicated. Prosecutors faced a daunting challenge. Without Elliott Eastman's body, proving murder beyond a reasonable doubt was nearly impossible. The case relied heavily on the confessions of the arrested suspects, but these statements were inconsistent, with some contradicting each other or recanting altogether. Defense attorneys argued that their clients had been coerced into confessing and that there was no concrete evidence linking them to Elliott's disappearance. Meanwhile, key witnesses were hesitant to testify, either out of fear or possible intimidation. Despite these obstacles, the prosecution pushed forward, presenting forensic evidence from the crime scene, bloodstains in Elliott's home, witness testimonies from the night of the abduction, and phone records suggesting possible coordination among the suspects. But as the trial dragged on, doubts lingered. Were these men truly responsible for Elliott's fate, or were they merely convenient scapegoats? And if they were guilty, had they acted alone, or were there more powerful figures behind the scenes, ensuring that the full truth would never come to light? For Elliott's family, the trial brought little solace. Every day in court only reinforced the brutal reality that they might never get the answers they desperately sought. And as the verdict approached, one question remained unresolved. Would justice truly be served, or would Elliott Eastman's disappearance remain a mystery lost to the sea? Even after the trial concluded, the case of Elliott Eastman remained an open wound for his family, friends, and the global community that had followed his story. The court's decision, whether it resulted in convictions, acquittals, or a hung jury, did little to erase the lingering uncertainty surrounding his disappearance. For some, justice had been served, but for others, the verdict only raised more questions. Without Elliott's body, without irrefutable evidence of his fate, the case felt unfinished, a mystery that refused to rest. In the Philippines, the case sent shockwaves through both the local community and the expat population. Foreigners living in rural areas were forced to confront a harsh reality. No matter how much they embraced their adopted homes, they could still be seen as outsiders, targets for crime, suspicion, or even violence. Many questioned whether Elliott's case had been fully investigated or if deeper, more powerful forces had worked to obscure the truth. Some locals whispered that not all those responsible had been caught, that others who knew more had either disappeared or remained silent out of fear. For Elliott's family back in the U.S., the aftermath was a painful mix of grief, frustration, and unanswered questions. His parents and siblings had spent months pleading for more action, more investigations, more efforts to recover his body, but as time passed, authorities slowly shifted focus to newer cases. Without fresh leads, the urgency to find Elliott began to fade, at least in the eyes of law enforcement. But for those who loved him, the nightmare never ended. With the official investigation stalled, online sleuths, journalists, and true crime enthusiasts took up the case, dissecting every known detail in search of the missing pieces. Some believed that Elliott had been the victim of a failed kidnapping, his captors unprepared for the consequences of their botched crime. Others remained convinced that his abduction was personal, that someone had wanted him silenced for reasons still unknown. And then there were those who questioned whether all the suspects had truly been caught, or if some powerful figure had orchestrated the crime and remained hidden in the shadows. One of the most chilling possibilities? That Elliott's case was part of a larger pattern, one of disappearances that had gone unreported, of foreign nationals who had vanished without a trace. Had he unknowingly uncovered something dangerous? Had he become a target for reasons beyond his own understanding? As time went on, Elliot Eastman's story became more than just a case. It became a cautionary tale. His name was spoken in expat forums, in travel advisories, in whispered warnings to foreigners moving to unfamiliar places. His disappearance served as a stark reminder of the risks that came with being visible in a world where danger could be lurking beneath the surface. Despite the passage of time, one thing remained certain. Elliot's fate had never been fully explained. His family continued to push for answers. His case still sparked discussions. And for those who had followed his journey from the start, one question still haunted them. Was Elliot Eastman's story truly over, or was the real truth still waiting to be uncovered? The case of Elliot Eastman remains one of the most unsettling disappearances in recent years. A story filled with unanswered questions, conflicting theories, and a chilling lack of closure. Was he the victim of a failed kidnapping, a personal vendetta, or something even more sinister? Were the men arrested truly responsible, or were they merely scapegoats for a larger, hidden operation? And most haunting of all, where is Elliot? Without a body, without final proof, his fate remains a painful mystery, leaving his loved ones trapped in an endless cycle of hope and despair. Even as time moves forward, Elliot's story refuses to fade. His case serves as both a warning and a call for justice, a reminder that the world can be both breathtakingly beautiful and dangerously unpredictable. His family continues to seek answers, his supporters refuse to let his memory be forgotten, and the truth, whatever it may be, still lingers just beyond reach. If you found this case as haunting and mysterious as we did, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think really happened to Elliot Eastman? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth true crime stories. And remember, stay curious, stay safe, and keep searching for the truth.
911, what's the address of your emergency? Your guy thinks somebody else is on the line. Okay. I don't know what just happened. Okay. Were you injured? Were you injured? Okay, where are you?
It was a quiet May 2014 evening in the lively college town of Isla Vista, California. The usual Friday night of laughter and activity metamorphosed into chaos as sirens cut through the air and scenes of terror unfolded across the community. By the end of the night, 6 were dead, 14 injured, and the quiet town was in shatters. The motives that became apparent in the days that followed painted a decidedly disturbing picture, one that, in many ways, challenged this nation to confront its darkness as well as where it had failed mass murderer. Let me take you through the video, revealing every shocking, astonishing detail of this case.
Hey, Elliot Roger here. Just took a nice walk in the park.
Elliot Oliver Robertson Roger was born to Peter Roger, the filmmaker who worked on some sections of The Hunger Games, and Lee Chin Roger, a research assistant.
I'm 22 years old, and I'm still a virgin. I've never even kissed a girl.
Elliot was born into a quite privileged environment in London, England, on July 24th, 1991. His family later settled in California after moving to the United States while he was still growing up. Despite the affluence in his upbringing, there was much emotional turmoil arising throughout Roger's life. Elliot was socially awkward and struggled to make friends from an early age. Parents, though divorced at the age of 7, were involved in his life. As Roger reached his adolescent years, he continuously spoke about his feelings of loneliness and low self-esteem. As a teenager, Roger went to several schools without ever finding his place among his peers. He soon became obsessed with the pecking order, felt at the bottom of the pile, and blamed others for his miserable life. Entries in his diary and later in his manifesto make clear a growing resentment against peers who seemed more successful socially, particularly men he envied and women he thought had rejected him.
I've waited a long time for this. I'll give you exactly what you deserve, all of you. All you girls who rejected me and looked down upon me, and all of you men for living a better life than me. All of you sexually active men, I hate you. I hate all of you.
In the following years, Roger's mental health problems started to surface. He had received therapists, was diagnosed with Asperger's, and was experiencing bouts of depression. Yet all these interventions appeared to have little impact as deeper feelings of anger and frustration started to surface. As Elliot Rodger approached his late teens and early 20s, the feelings of isolation and resentment that had plagued him for years became increasingly pronounced. Living in Isla Vista, a community known for its vibrant student life due to its proximity to the University of California, Santa Barbara, Rodger found himself surrounded by the social interactions, relationships, and carefree fun he desperately desired but felt incapable of achieving. This environment only deepened his sense of alienation, as he felt perpetually on the outside looking in. In 2014, Rodger began compiling his infamous 141-page manifesto titled My Twisted World. This document provides a detailed and chilling account of his life, from his childhood through his meticulously planned day of retribution. The manifesto offers unsettling insight into his thought process, revealing a young man consumed by entitlement, anger, and despair.
I can't wait to give you exactly what you deserve.
Key themes include his belief that women owed him their attention and affection, his envy and resentment toward men he perceived as more socially successful, his obsession with social status, and his grandiose fantasies of revenge. Rodger repeatedly expressed outrage at women for rejecting him, believing romantic and sexual relationships to be his right. He blamed women collectively for his unhappiness and viewed men who attracted women with envy, expressing a desire to punish them for their perceived success. His manifesto also highlighted his fixation on achieving a lifestyle he believed he deserved, fueled by constant comparisons to peers, as well as his delusional vision of himself as a savior, punishing society for perceived injustices. Rodger's frustrations found a toxic outlet online, where he became active in forums such as PU Hate, a community focused on criticizing pickup artists while harboring deeply misogynistic views. These forums amplified Rodger's grievances and validated his belief that women in society at large were to blame for his misery. His radicalization is further documented in the videos he uploaded to YouTube in the months leading up to the attack. In these clips, he lamented his virginity, berated women, and announced his plans for retribution. Despite their disturbing content, the videos went largely unnoticed outside his small audience until after the attack. In the months leading up to the killings, there were several missed opportunities for intervention. Rodger's parents were aware of his struggles and had tried to intervene. His mother, alarmed by his disturbing YouTube videos, contacted authorities, but when law enforcement conducted a wellness check, they found Rodger polite and composed, ultimately taking no action. Rodger had been in therapy from a young age, but these efforts failed to address his escalating issues, partly due to his refusal to take prescribed medication. Despite living in a shared apartment, he had few meaningful connections, and his roommates ultimately became his first victims. By the time May 2014 arrived, Rodger had meticulously planned his day of retribution, purchasing firearms and mapping out his attack. His manifesto and online activity made it clear that he saw this act as both revenge and a way to achieve notoriety. The tragic events of May 23, 2014, in Isla Vista, California, unfolded in 3 distinct phases, leaving 6 victims dead, 14 others injured, and an entire community devastated. Elliot Rodger meticulously planned his attack as described in his 141-page manifesto, intending to carry out a series of violent acts involving stabbing, shooting, and vehicular assault. His targets included his roommates, women he perceived as rejecting him, and random bystanders, underscoring the calculated and deeply personal nature of his grievances.
Elliot Rodger here. And here I am at Serrania Park, the most significant place of my childhood. I wish I could be a kid again. Those were the happy years, and I could just live my life without realizing how cruel the world really is.
The violence began in Rodger's apartment with the brutal stabbings of his 2 roommates, George Chen and Chung-Yuan Hong, along with their friend Wei-Han Wang. These young men, aged 19 and 20, were completely unprepared for the ferocity of the attack, unable to defend themselves as Rodger carried out his plan. In his manifesto, Roger expressed a deep resentment toward his roommates, whom he viewed as emblematic of his perceived social rejection and isolation. The act of stabbing these men in the very space they shared with him reflected a profoundly personal and disturbing aspect of Roger's anger, as he targeted those closest to him in the first phase of his assault. Following the murders in his apartment, Roger transitioned to the second phase of his attack. He uploaded a chilling final video to YouTube, titled Elliot Rogers' Retribution, in which he outlined his plans and articulated his hatred toward women and society at large. In the video, Roger spoke of exacting revenge for what he perceived as years of rejection and injustice, blaming women for not giving him the romantic and sexual relationships he felt entitled to, and society for allowing him to feel marginalized. With his manifesto and video acting as his final declarations, Roger set his deadly plans into motion. He drove to the Alpha Phi sorority house at the University of California, Santa Barbara, a location he had described in his manifesto as the hotspot of female perfection. According to his writings, this sorority house represented everything Roger despised about women, an idealized version of beauty and popularity that he believed had spurned him throughout his life. When Roger was unable to gain entry to the house, he turned his fury on bystanders outside, firing indiscriminately and killing two women, Catherine Cooper and Veronica Weiss. Cooper, 22, and Weiss, 19, were young UCSB students with bright futures ahead of them. Their lives senselessly cut short in the chaos of Roger's rampage. Roger's violence did not stop at the sorority house. He began driving through the streets of Isla Vista, targeting pedestrians and cyclists at random. His car became a mobile weapon, allowing him to move quickly between locations as he continued his shooting spree. During this phase, Roger stopped briefly at a deli, where he shot and killed Christopher Michaels Martinez, a 20-year-old UCSB student who had simply been inside the establishment. Michaels Martinez, like the other victims, was a vibrant young person with dreams and aspirations that would never be realized, a life stolen in the midst of Roger's escalating violence. The final phase of Roger's attack involved the use of his car as a weapon of destruction. As law enforcement began pursuing him, he drove recklessly through the streets of Isla Vista, running over pedestrians in his path. Witnesses described the chaos as Roger swerved erratically, intent on causing as much harm as possible before his plan reached its conclusion. The chase ended when Roger crashed into a parked car, bringing his rampage to an abrupt halt. When police approached his vehicle, they discovered that Roger had fatally shot himself in the head. Inside the car, authorities found 3 semi-automatic handguns and over 400 rounds of ammunition, evidence of the extensive planning and preparation Roger had undertaken in the lead-up to the attack. The victims of the Isla Vista killings were young individuals with promising futures, their lives and stories tragically cut short by Roger's actions. George Chen, 19, was described by friends and family as kind and academically driven, with a bright future ahead of him. Chung Yun Hong, 20, shared similar qualities, remembered for his gentle nature and close ties to his family. Wei Han Wang, 20, was a recent addition to the household and had dreams of academic and professional success. Catherine Cooper, 22, was a beloved UCSB student with a vibrant personality, while Veronica Weiss, 19, was remembered as a dedicated student and athlete who touched the lives of those around her. Christopher Michaels Martinez, 20, was a UCSB student with aspirations of becoming a lawyer, a young man known for his compassion and sense of justice. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the grief of the victims' families and the broader community became central to the public response. Parents and loved ones shared memories of those lost, turning their pain into advocacy for change. Richard Martinez, the father of Christopher Michaels Martinez, became a prominent voice in the push for gun control, channeling his grief into a call for action to prevent future tragedies. The senseless loss of these young lives highlighted not only the devastating consequences of Roger's actions, but also the systemic issues that allowed his violence to escalate unchecked.
Parents used to always take me here when I was a kid, back when my life was happy and fair, back when I thought the world was fair. How naive I was. I was only an innocent child.
The Isla Vista killings underscored significant failings in recognizing and addressing warning signs. In the months leading up to the attack, there were numerous opportunities for intervention that went unheeded. Roger's parents had expressed concerns about his mental health, and his mother had alerted authorities after viewing his disturbing YouTube videos. However, when law enforcement conducted a wellness check at Roger's apartment, they found him polite and composed, ultimately taking no action. This failure to recognize the severity of the threat Roger posed reflected broader challenges in addressing mental health crises and the limitations of current systems in preventing violence. Roger's extensive history of therapy and mental health struggles also came into sharp focus. Diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and experiencing bouts of depression, Roger had been in therapy for much of his life. Despite these efforts, his refusal to take prescribed medication and his increasing isolation rendered these interventions insufficient.
This is my usual sunset spot, mainly because there's rarely any young couples here that I would get jealous of.
His online activity, particularly his participation in misogynistic forums like PUA hate, further exacerbated his grievances and radicalized his worldview. These platforms provided a toxic echo chamber that validated Roger's anger and entitlement, reinforcing his belief that women in society were to blame for his misery. The events of May 23, 2014, revealed the devastating consequences of unchecked anger, entitlement, and alienation. They also highlighted systemic issues in identifying and addressing warning signs, as well as the role of online communities in fostering radicalization. The victims' stories and the pain of their families remain a stark reminder of the human cost of such tragedies, emphasizing the need for a multifaceted approach to prevention, including mental health support, gun control, and addressing toxic cultural narratives. As Isla Vista continues to heal, the memory of those lost serves as a call to action to build a safer, more compassionate society. The Isla Vista killings remain a chilling reminder of how personal grievances, untreated mental health challenges, and online radicalization can intertwine to produce devastating violence. Elliot Rodgers' actions, as chronicled in his manifesto and video statements, were the product of a complex interplay of factors, each demanding careful analysis to prevent similar tragedies in the future. At the core of Rodgers' motives was a deeply entrenched misogyny. He believed that women owed him affection and sexual attention, framing his violent actions as retribution against a society he saw as unfairly denying him what he felt entitled to. His manifesto and videos reveal an obsessive fixation on his virginity and a simmering resentment toward women whom he blamed for his unhappiness. This entitlement fueled his hatred, positioning women as the primary targets of his grievances. Rodgers' ideology was emblematic of the growing incel, involuntary celibate movement, a term that gained notoriety after his attacks but had already begun to coalesce in online communities at the time. Rodgers' engagement with online forums such as PUA Hate, an anti-pickup artist community, provided fertile ground for his toxic beliefs to deepen. These platforms served as echo chambers, validating his anger and amplifying his misogynistic views. While the incel movement encompasses a range of ideologies, its core often perpetuates harmful narratives that dehumanize women and encourage hostility. Within these communities, Roger became a symbol of violent resistance, with some participants lionizing him as a figure of revenge against perceived societal injustices. This dangerous glorification underscores the unchecked radicalization that can occur in such online spaces, where vulnerable individuals find validation for destructive thoughts. Roger's mental health struggles were another significant factor in the tragedy. Diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and experiencing depression, he exhibited clear signs of social isolation and distress from an early age. Despite years of therapy and his family's attempts to support him, his condition deteriorated as he aged.
I've been cast out. No one likes me. No one accepts me. All my life I've been struggling to fit in with the popular kids. I've been struggling to get a girlfriend. No one has ever accepted me.
Roger's refusal to fully engage with treatment or take prescribed medication limited the effectiveness of these interventions, leaving him to spiral further into anger and resentment.
Hey, Elliot Roger here. I'm sitting in my car. Making another entry in my collection of vlogs. Ever since I hit puberty, I've wanted girls. I've desired girls. I've been sexually attracted to girls. But they've never shown any attraction back to me.
His manifesto details his long-standing feelings of inadequacy and rejection, offering a window into the mind of someone unable to reconcile his expectations with reality. The system failed to address Roger's escalating behavior adequately, despite clear warning signs. In the weeks leading up to the attack, his mother alerted authorities to his disturbing online activity, prompting a wellness check by law enforcement. However, when deputies visited him, Roger presented himself as calm and polite, leading them to dismiss the concerns. This interaction highlighted a critical gap in assessing and managing mental health crises, as well as the challenges of identifying underlying threats when an individual does not outwardly display alarming behavior. A more thorough investigation could have uncovered his growing arsenal of firearms, the manifesto outlining his plans, or other red flags, potentially averting the tragedy. Roger's access to firearms was another enabling factor in the attack. Over the course of a year, he legally purchased 3 semi-automatic handguns, passing all required background checks despite his documented mental health issues. This aspect of the case reignited national debates about gun control, particularly regarding access to firearms for individuals with known mental health challenges. In response, California enacted the Gun Violence Restraining Order law, allowing family members and law enforcement to petition for the temporary removal of firearms from individuals deemed a danger to themselves or others. While this legislation represents progress, it also highlights the gaps that allowed Roger to arm himself and carry out his plans despite clear signs of distress and danger. Beyond individual factors, Roger's story reflects broader cultural and social issues. Toxic masculinity, the societal expectation that men must achieve specific markers of success, such as romantic relationships, financial status, or social dominance, exacerbated Roger's feelings of inadequacy. His manifesto reveals the destructive impact of these pressures, particularly when coupled with an inability to cope with rejection or perceived failure. Roger's belief that his self-worth was tied to romantic and sexual success left him vulnerable to intense feelings of resentment and entitlement when reality fell short of his expectations. The internet played a critical role in fostering and amplifying Roger's grievances. Online spaces provided him with a platform to express his frustrations and connect with like-minded individuals who reinforced his toxic worldview. The anonymity and insularity of these forums created an environment where harmful ideologies could thrive unchecked, emboldening Roger's sense of victimhood and fueling his plans for revenge. This case highlights the dangers of online radicalization, where individuals can be drawn into echo chambers that validate and escalate their most destructive thoughts. The Isla Vista killings serve as a stark reminder of the multifaceted nature of mass violence and the systemic failures that can enable it. Addressing the underlying issues requires a comprehensive approach. Improved mental health resources and interventions are crucial, particularly for individuals who exhibit early signs of social isolation or distress. Law enforcement must receive better training in identifying and responding to mental health crises, with a focus on assessing potential threats beyond surface-level interactions. Stricter regulations on firearm access, particularly for individuals with known mental health challenges, are essential to prevent future tragedies. Equally important is the need to challenge harmful cultural narratives. Combating toxic masculinity and addressing the unrealistic pressures placed on men to achieve specific ideals can help reduce feelings of entitlement and inadequacy. Efforts to monitor and counteract radicalization in online spaces are also critical, ensuring that vulnerable individuals do not find validation for destructive ideologies. The victims of the Isla Vista killings, George Chen, Chung Yuan Hong, Weihan Wang, Catherine Cooper, Veronica Weiss, and Christopher Michaels Martinez, were young individuals with promising futures, tragically cut short by Roger's actions. Their stories and the grief of their families continue to resonate, serving as a call to action for meaningful change. By addressing the interconnected factors that contributed to this tragedy, society can work to prevent similar events and honor the memory of those lost. The aftermath of the Isla Vista killings was a period marked by profound grief, public outrage, and a collective determination to address the and systemic issues that contributed to the tragedy. Families of the victims, particularly Richard Martinez, father of Christopher Michaels Martinez, emerged as vocal advocates for change. Martinez's impassioned plea, "Not one more," became a rallying cry for those calling for stricter gun control and greater accountability. His voice galvanized a movement, uniting activists, lawmakers, and communities in a shared demand to prevent future tragedies. The Isla Vista killings prompted significant legislative action, particularly in California, where reforms were introduced to address some of the systemic failures highlighted by the case. Among the most notable was the introduction of the Gun Violence Restraining Order, GVRO, a law designed to empower courts to temporarily prohibit individuals deemed a threat to themselves or others from accessing firearms. The GVRO became a model for similar legislation in other states, offering families and law enforcement a critical tool for intervening when red flags emerge. This legislation reflected a growing recognition of the need to balance individual rights with public safety in cases involving mental health crises and potential violence. In addition to gun control reforms, the tragedy spurred efforts to enhance mental health interventions. The Isla Vista killings exposed significant gaps in how mental health issues were identified and addressed, particularly for individuals who resist treatment or display warning signs without overtly threatening behavior. California responded by implementing measures to improve collaboration between healthcare providers and law enforcement, aiming to create a more cohesive system for recognizing and responding to potential threats. While these changes represent important progress, the broader national debates surrounding gun control and mental health care remain deeply polarized and unresolved. Elliot Rodger's actions and the manifesto he left behind forced society to confront uncomfortable truths about misogyny, toxic masculinity, and the radicalizing influence of online communities. His deep-seated resentment toward women and belief in male entitlement highlighted the pervasive nature of harmful gender dynamics that often go unaddressed. The attack brought the term incel, short for involuntary celibate, into mainstream discourse, exposing a subculture that, while diverse in its expressions, often perpetuates hatred toward women and reinforces damaging stereotypes about relationships and societal expectations. The Isla Vista killings sparked widespread discussions about how societal norms and cultural narratives contribute to feelings of inadequacy and entitlement, particularly among young men. Toxic masculinity, the expectation that men must achieve dominance, success, and romantic relationships to validate their self-worth, emerged as a key issue in understanding Rodger's grievances. His manifesto and online activity revealed how these pressures, coupled with social isolation, can fester into dangerous resentment. The case also shone a light on the role of online communities in radicalizing vulnerable individuals. Platforms like PUA Hate, where Rodger found validation for his toxic beliefs, were identified as echo chambers that amplify anger and misogyny. These forums allowed Rodger to connect with others who shared his frustrations, reinforcing and escalating his sense of victimhood and entitlement. The incident underscored the urgent need for greater scrutiny of harmful online spaces and more proactive measures to counteract the spread of radical ideologies. Rodger's mental health struggles and resistance to treatment were central to the tragedy, highlighting the challenges of addressing mental health crises, particularly for young men. His refusal to fully engage with therapy and medication underscored the limitations of voluntary interventions in cases where individuals are unwilling or unable to acknowledge the severity of their issues. Advocates have since called for greater public awareness of mental health, early intervention programs, and efforts to destigmatize seeking help, especially among men who may feel societal pressure to suppress vulnerability. The case also illuminated systemic shortcomings in recognizing and responding to warning signs. Law enforcement's wellness check at Rodger's apartment, conducted just weeks before the attack, was a missed opportunity for intervention. Despite his mother's concerns and the disturbing content of his online videos, deputies found Rodger calm and polite, ultimately taking no further action. This failure underscored the need for better training for law enforcement in assessing mental health crises and understanding the nuanced behaviors of potentially dangerous individuals. The Isla Vista killings left an indelible mark on societal discourse, pushing issues such as gun control, mental health care, misogyny, and online radicalization to the forefront of public consciousness. While legislative changes like the GVRO represent meaningful progress, much work remains to address the root causes of such tragedies. This includes fostering a culture that promotes mental well-being, challenges harmful gender norms, and counters the spread of extremist ideologies online. As the community continues to heal, the stories of the victims and the advocacy of their families serve as a powerful reminder of the need for change. Their loss is a call to action, a demand for a society that prioritizes compassion, safety, and accountability. By addressing the interconnected factors that contributed to the Isla Vista killings, there is hope that similar tragedies can be prevented, honoring the memory of those whose lives were tragically cut short. The Isla Vista killings stand as a sobering reminder of the complex interplay between personal struggles, pressures, and systemic failures. Elliot Rodgers' descent into violence was not an inevitability, but rather the tragic outcome of missed warning signs, untreated mental health challenges, and toxic ideologies that thrived in isolation and online spaces. This case compels us to confront these issues with urgency and compassion. As we reflect on this tragedy, it becomes clear that early intervention, stronger systems of accountability, and proactive efforts to challenge the cultural and structural forces that perpetuate misogyny and violence are essential. The Isla Vista victims' legacy calls for continued advocacy and action to create a safer, more inclusive, and compassionate society. Legislative reforms like California's gun violence restraining order mark important progress, but they are just the beginning. To prevent future tragedies, we must tackle the deeper roots of alienation, entitlement, and radicalization that lead individuals down such destructive paths. This means fostering a culture that values mental health, promotes healthy social connections, and confronts harmful narratives head-on. By learning from the Isla Vista killings, we honor the memories of those whose lives were tragically cut short. Their loss serves as a powerful call to action, a reminder of our shared responsibility to build a world where such violence becomes unthinkable. Together, we can reaffirm our commitment to ensuring that no more lives are lost to preventable tragedies. Thank you for watching this video and for taking the time to engage with this important topic. If you found this content meaningful, please like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more discussions that matter. Thank you. On June 19, 2019, a 911 dispatcher received a call from a church employee reporting a tip about a body discovered in a remote location.
I work at the Rising Church in Old Town, Arvada. I have a person who's reporting a crime that was reported to him firsthand, and there's a vehicle that potentially has a body in it. The person who committed this crime is Frank Moffett.
In the background, a voice could be heard guiding the caller on what to say.
Okay, does he have any further information?
It's definitely not a hoax. It's not my number.
Police promptly responded to the call to investigate the report.
She said that there was a man in the church and that he wanted to report a crime. Essentially, the crime was that his brother had killed his girlfriend and placed her into the trunk of a vehicle near his home. As soon as we heard we possibly have a body in our car, we're thinking, we have a homicide. We need to treat this as a homicide.
The call included a serious allegation, naming a suspect who lived near the vehicle. Upon arriving at the provided address, police discovered a white Ford Escort. The vehicle was abandoned, had been unregistered for 2 years, and was filled with trash. When questioned by police, neighbors mentioned they believed the visible limbs inside the abandoned car were part of a mannequin.
Pretty sure. I mean, we both feel confident. And we pray that that's what we saw.
There was a distinct odor of rotting, of death. Every police officer knows the smell of death. There was a female body in the car. Her head was down near the floorboard. Her feet were almost up on the seat. My initial response is we need to get our CSIs out. We need to get the lab out. We were concerned with the rising temperatures that we would start to lose physical evidence, DNA, off of the body.
The police needed to examine the body hidden beneath the piles of garbage bags.
Upon death, the body continues to change as it decays. So we ultimately sealed the car and then had it towed with the body in it back to the police station.
The pressing question was, how did the body end up in the car? Their only lead was the man named in the 911 call, Frank Moffitt, who lived just around the corner from where the car was found. The police decided to move in on him.
Havana PD! Make yourself known, exit the residence with your hands up! Havana PD! Havana PD! Exit the residence!
Frank Moffitt was promptly arrested and taken into custody for questioning.
Face the other way. Back up towards me until I tell you to stop.
He basically said that he had nothing to do with the homicide, had no idea how she ended up inside this vehicle that he was using at the time.
The police immediately began searching for evidence in and around Frank's house. They also canvassed the area, searching for any available surveillance footage.
We need to knock on every single door and get as much footage as we possibly could. Everybody has cameras these days.
There you go, bingo. There, you got both angles. Okay, that's perfect.
Meanwhile, the crime scene investigation team began their meticulous work on the white car.
This was not just a female placed in the back of an empty vehicle. The car had a rolled up rug, it had trash bags, it had car batteries. It was packed full of stuff. Each item had to meticulously be taken out of the car. We processed some of the items for DNA. It was a very lengthy, slow process.
Detective Matt Archuleta carefully examined the evidence inside the car, as well as the body, to determine the cause of death.
There was a small trickle of like a bloody substance coming out of one of the eye sockets. And it had a downward shape to it in the sense that it had run down the nose and then dried. Following gravity, that would indicate the head was in an upright position when that drop came out. It was fairly obvious that the death had occurred somewhere else, that the body was put into the car by someone, and then that the body was covered with trash to hide the body.
After removing the body from the car, the police used a fingerprint scanner to identify the victim. The victim was identified as Veronica Serenana. But what happened to her? Who could have possibly wanted her dead? And what clues were found that brought everything to light? Well, stay with us as we unravel the chilling events, the secrets, and the heartbreaking reality behind Veronica Serenana's final days. On June 19, 2019, Veronica Ann Serenana, a devoted mother, daughter, sister, and aunt, was taken from this world at just 38 years old. But who was she beyond this heartbreaking end? And what led to this heartbreaking loss? Veronica's family and friends remember her as a beautiful soul with a contagious smile and a laugh that filled the room. She was passionate about hiking, reading, and yoga, finding peace in nature and joy in simple moments. How could someone so full of life meet such a tragic fate? Born on August 30th, 1980, in Kremling, Colorado, Veronica was deeply loved by those around her. Her children, Emilio and Andrew Gutierrez, and her parents, Pedro and Sadie, mourn her absence every day. She also leaves behind siblings who remember her warmth and kindness, her sparkling eyes that lit up any space she entered. How does a family recover from losing someone so cherished? Despite the love that surrounded her, Veronica's life ended amid a conflict that brought unimaginable sorrow to all who knew her. Was this tragedy preventable? And how did the feud between two brothers lead to a loss that no family should have to endure? So, one of the two brothers, Christopher Moffitt, was in a relationship with Veronica Serenana, a bond that should have been safe and full of trust. But for Veronica, it was anything but safe. For 4 turbulent years, their relationship swung between brief moments of calm and terrifying bursts of violence. How could something that seemed like love become so twisted? Christopher viewed their relationship as a beautiful love story, but was it really? For Veronica, it was far from a storybook romance. The good times were always overshadowed by Chris's brutal outbursts, turning their lives into a nightmare cycle of control and fear. In January 2019, only 5 months before Veronica's tragic end, police were called in after one of Chris's violent attacks. He'd been arrested for assaulting her, but Veronica's story went beyond just one incident. She told investigators that he'd hurt her more than 100 times throughout their relationship. Can you imagine the pain and fear she lived with daily? The most horrifying part? Chris had a common method of hurting her. He would pin her down, cover her mouth and nose with his hand, and leave her unable to breathe. This wasn't just a moment of rage, it was a pattern of terrifying control. The first time he strangled her, she lost consciousness, and yet she found herself caught in a cycle, unable to break free. Despite the serious nature of the charges, something unexpected happened. In January, Chris was arrested, but by April, the assault charge was dismissed. Why was this charge dismissed? And what did this mean for Veronica? Without the weight of those charges, Chris walked free. But his anger hadn't faded. Just a day after his release, he assaulted her again. This time, he pled guilty to felony assault, receiving a sentence of 3 years probation. It was then that Veronica was granted a protection order, a fragile barrier between her and the man who continued to haunt her life. But even a protection order couldn't keep him away. Chris soon found himself back in jail, this time for a drug charge. But when he was released on June 12th, he reached out to Veronica again, ignoring the protection order entirely. He had nowhere else to go, and somehow Veronica, compassionate as she was, didn't turn him away. She chose to help him, despite everything, despite the warnings, and despite the protection order. What would make her do this? Veronica booked a series of hotel rooms for Chris around Denver, allowing him a place to stay even as her own safety was compromised. It's chilling to think about, isn't it? Here was a woman who, despite all that she'd endured, showed kindness to the man who'd caused her such fear and pain. But Veronica's generosity, sadly, came at a terrible cost. On June 17th, hotel security footage captured Veronica alive for one of the last times. She was seen paying for Chris's room while he passed by dressed in a white-collared shirt and a gray t-shirt that bore the unsettling words, "Serial Tillers," on the back. The very next day, June 18th, Veronica went to visit Chris again. This time, they planned a casual outing. They picked up Chinese food and a 6-pack of beer, hoping for a quiet picnic by scenic Lake Dillon. But this outing wasn't the lighthearted escape it seemed. Instead, a dark cloud was already looming over them, even if Veronica hadn't fully realized it yet. In Chris's mind, paranoia and jealousy were brewing. He had a suspicion, a devastating suspicion, that Veronica and his brother had been together while he was in jail. This idea hurt and angered him deeply, feeding his resentment. He wanted Veronica all to himself, with no one else in her life. And on that day, he tried to persuade her to leave it all behind, to run away with him and start fresh somewhere far away. But Veronica had already given him so many chances. She wasn't willing to throw everything away and run. And that refusal was enough to make Chris snap. His temper flared, and once again, he lost control. But this time, the consequences were irreversible. In a fit of rage, Chris strangled Veronica. By the time he came to his senses, it was too late. Veronica Serenana, a loving mother and a kind-hearted woman, would never take another breath. The medical examiner later confirmed that she died from manual strangulation. Veronica was only 38 years old when she lost her life. She left behind 2 young sons, children who would now have to grow up without their mother. What would her sons remember of her? Would they remember the love she gave, or would the shadow of her tragic death haunt them forever? It's impossible to fully grasp the heartbreak and suffering Veronica must have endured, not just in her final moments, but throughout the years of her relationship with Chris. What drove her to keep helping him, despite the danger he posed? Why wasn't the justice system able to protect her, even with the protection order in place? Now Chris knew he was in deeper trouble than he had ever been in before. But instead of facing up to what he'd done, he began forming a desperate, almost reckless plan. And what did he come up with? Well, in his mind, he could escape the consequences if he could just convince the police that someone else was responsible. And the person he chose? His own brother, Frank Moffat, who went by Kelly. But why would Chris do this? Well, according to him, Kelly had bullied him for years, ever since they were kids. He painted a picture of constant fighting and bad blood. Chris later told detectives that Kelly had always been the bad guy in his life, often beating him up and picking on him. But what he didn't tell them was his true motive. He wanted revenge. This frame-up was his chance to finally get even, to settle some old scores with Kelly and punish him for what he felt was a recent betrayal involving Veronica. Chris then spun a story for the detectives, a story he hoped would make them believe Kelly was the real culprit. He claimed that on the night of June 18th, he'd dropped Veronica off at Kelly's place around midnight. He said he knew that she'd chosen to be with Kelly, and he claimed he was fine with it, even though it stung. According to his story, he reluctantly accepted her decision. But was that true? Nope. To make things even more convincing, text messages were sent from Veronica's phone to Kelly's that night. The police later hinted that Chris himself may have sent those texts to make it look like Veronica had plans with Kelly. Around 1:30 a.m. on June 19th, a security camera recorded Chris walking near Kelly's house. But here's the question. Why was he there, alone, in the middle of the night? And where was Veronica? Kelly lived in Arvada, a quiet suburb about 12 miles from Denver. In the early hours of that morning, Chris decided to return to Kelly's home. But why go back? What was he planning to do? This time, he was there to plant more evidence. Security footage shows Chris placing Veronica's purse on the dog gate right by Kelly's front door. Kelly and his housemates found the purse the next morning. Imagine their surprise. Veronica's purse was just sitting there, but they didn't know that something far more disturbing was close by. What they couldn't see was that Veronica's body was actually hidden in Kelly's old, beat-up car parked nearby, a car already loaded with trash. They had no idea this simple purse was part of a much larger setup. And what did Chris do next? To take his scheme a step further, he made an anonymous 911 call claiming there had been some suspicious activity and a possible disturbance at Kelly's house the night before. But he wasn't done yet. Just 20 minutes after that, another call came in to 911. This time it was from a church nearby, where an employee reported that a man matching Chris's description had walked in and started making shocking claims. He told them that his brother Kelly had killed his girlfriend and that her body was hidden in Kelly's car. The police took these calls seriously. They quickly descended on Kelly's house, determined to find this vehicle and the evidence inside. What did they find? A white Ford Escort parked not too far from Kelly's house, and in the back seat, hidden under garbage bags and a rolled-up carpet, they found Veronica's body. Now, why would Kelly have loaded this car with trash? Kelly later told police he had filled the car with garbage because he knew it was about to be towed. This detail alone added to the mystery. Could Chris have known this and used it to his advantage? Was it part of his calculated plan to pin everything on Kelly? Armed with the damning calls and the horrifying scene they just uncovered, police moved in to arrest Kelly. This wasn't a simple knock on the door. Given the severity of the accusations and the corpse in his car, they treated him as a dangerous suspect. First, officers used flashbang grenades to get his attention, making sure he knew they were serious. They then commanded him, loudly and forcefully, to come out of the house. Kelly was arrested, and for a while it seemed like Chris's story might hold up. But could he really get away with something this twisted? How long could his web of lies last? Well, while Chris's brother was getting questioned by the police for a murder he didn't commit, Chris himself was far from sitting still. Instead, he used this time to lay out more of his plan, making it look like his brother was the one responsible. But how exactly did he try to pull this off? And just how far was he willing to go to make it look like he was innocent? Chris got to work on building his alibi and creating a smokescreen to divert attention away from himself. He drove around to different places, libraries, public spots, even a casino, leaving messages for Veronica, who by then was already dead. What was he saying in these messages? He sent emails pretending to beg her to run away with him. Why? Because he wanted to give the impression that he thought she was still alive, as if she might just be off hiding somewhere. Adding another layer to his story, Chris didn't own a phone. This forced him to stop at various places to make calls, using different public phones to contact people, always from somewhere new. He even explained his movements to the police when they interviewed him, detailing where he'd been and what he'd done. But this was all just a performance to make himself look innocent. Then detectives uncovered a voicemail Chris had left for Veronica, another piece in his tangled web of deception. In this voicemail, he painted a picture that he still cared for her, as if he was genuinely concerned about her whereabouts. But with Veronica's death confirmed, these voicemails only deepened the mystery. Why go to all this trouble if he had nothing to hide? When asked why he was driving Veronica's car, Chris came up with another story, claiming that she felt guilty for supposedly betraying him by getting close to his brother. According to him, she wanted to make things right, so she handed her car over to him so he could leave town. But his story didn't add up. If he planned to leave on his own, why did he need her car? And if Veronica wasn't going with him, what was the point? Chris then told police he had agreed to pay Veronica $2,000 for the car. He said that when he had the money, he'd send it to her and she'd mail him the car's title. But this didn't quite make sense either. Why would someone who intended to stay close to someone they supposedly loved prepare to leave town with their car? Pressed to explain further, Chris claimed he'd last seen Veronica when he drove her to his brother's house late one night, dropping her off around midnight. After that, he said he drove out to the mouth of Black Rock Canyon, where he slept in the car. But what was he doing there alone? And why didn't Veronica go with him? Something didn't feel right. Then detectives hit him with the real news. Veronica was the victim of a murder investigation. Chris's reaction was to fake surprise. His story continued to unravel as detectives dug deeper into his whereabouts and actions. A massive hole in Chris's plan came to light through security footage that showed him around his brother Kelly's house on the night Veronica died. Chris had insisted he'd left Veronica at Kelly's house that evening, but the cameras showed otherwise. Kelly was inside his house all night and didn't leave, meaning he couldn't have been involved in any crime outside. Not only that, but Veronica was nowhere to be seen in the footage. The implication was clear. Chris's story didn't match up with reality. But why would he try so hard to frame his own brother? Kelly, now fully aware of Chris's intentions, told detectives that he believed Chris was trying to set him up. He suspected it was all because of Veronica and the complicated relationships between the three of them. Kelly even admitted to having been with Veronica once in April, adding another layer to the twisted triangle. But when he proved he had a solid alibi for the night in question, police were quick to clear him. This left Chris as the prime suspect. It wasn't exactly a leap given his history. There were multiple domestic violence charges on his record, all involving Veronica. He tried to present himself as trustworthy and honest with the detectives, but with so much stacking up against him, the detectives weren't buying it. On June 19th, the same day Veronica's body was discovered, police tracked Chris down in Glenwood Springs. He was sitting in Veronica's car, parked in a Walmart parking lot. This was a red flag in itself. Veronica was already missing, yet he had her vehicle. Police arrested him for violating a restraining order and booked him into the Garfield County Jail. Here, two detectives from the Arvada Police Department paid him a visit early the next morning, eager to ask him about the final hours he'd spent with Veronica. The topic of his brother Kelly came up repeatedly in their conversation. As the detectives questioned him, Chris repeatedly denied having anything to do with Veronica's death. But his explanations were flimsy at best. He even went so far as to label her as a stalker, claiming she had been obsessed with him. Why would he suddenly turn the story around like this? The truth is, Chris's stories had more holes than solid ground, and the detectives could see through them. Despite his insistence that he was innocent, everything, from the security footage to his inconsistent statements, pointed in one direction. It all came back to him, to the tangled mess he'd created to cover his tracks. As the detectives gathered more evidence, it became clear that this was not a case of a simple misunderstanding or a tragic accident. It was far more complex, layered with deception, manipulation, and betrayal. With each step Chris took to try to cover his tracks, he only made it easier for the truth to come to light. And in the end, his actions told the story louder than his words ever could. So was it worth it? Did Chris think he could actually get away with it? These are the questions that linger, casting a dark shadow over the tragic story of Veronica Serenana's final days. Now Chris Moffat, then 36, told investigators that the tension with his older brother Kelly wasn't new. It had been simmering for years, even decades. In fact, the hostility went back to their childhood, long before Veronica Serenana, the woman Chris was eventually convicted of killing, entered the picture. This bad blood between the brothers set the stage for a tragic outcome. But how did it get to the point of murder? After Chris was arrested and in jail, something unexpected happened. His younger brother Kenny arranged a video visit. Imagine Chris's surprise. He hadn't even checked the visitor log and had no idea his little brother wanted to see him. Despite the bitterness he harbored toward Kelly, the tension with Kenny was clearly different. Chris seemed genuinely moved to see his younger sibling, thrilled by the effort Kenny made to reach out while he was behind bars. During their conversation, Chris didn't dive into the details of his case. He told Kenny he couldn't talk about it because it was still unresolved. Kenny seemed to understand, not pressing him for information. Instead, they focused on other things, including one of Chris's deepest concerns, his young daughter from a previous relationship. Chris begged Kenny to stay involved in her life, urging him to make sure she didn't lose her connection to the Moffat family. It was a rare moment of vulnerability, and Kenny reassured his brother, promising to do whatever he could to help. But what does this tell us about Chris's mindset? Was he already facing the reality that he might not be around to raise his daughter? The brothers began regular video calls, giving glimpses into Chris's life in jail. But what is life really like for someone facing such serious charges? For Chris, it was a daily reminder of the decisions he had made as he lived out his days in confinement, speaking with Kenny through a screen. Then, the day before Thanksgiving, Chris had another emotional interaction. His father joined in on a video call with him and Kenny. In a moment that pulled at the heartstrings, father and son reconnected, sharing a bittersweet holiday visit. For Chris, it was a chance to feel connected to his family, despite the charges hanging over him. But did this reunion bring any peace, or did it only deepen the sense of loss and regret? Chris's plan to frame his older brother Kelly was ultimately unsuccessful. Investigators found holes in his story, and the evidence didn't line up with his accusations. Security cameras contradicted his account, and lab results sealed his fate. DNA evidence found on Veronica's body, specifically on her hands and neck, matched Chris, not Kelly. Meanwhile, Kelly's DNA was nowhere to be found. The truth of what happened to Veronica started to come into focus, and Chris's attempt to deflect responsibility was exposed. But what was going through his mind as this evidence piled up against him? Did he believe he could actually get away with blaming his brother? The autopsy report further confirmed the tragedy of Veronica's final moments. It revealed that she had suffered extensive bruising and abrasions on her lips, eyes, throat, neck, and shoulders. The cause of death was determined to be manual strangulation, a brutal and personal act that left no doubt about the violence involved. For investigators, this reinforced the picture of a troubled relationship, marked by abuse and escalating hostility. In 2021, Chris finally admitted his guilt. He entered a plea deal, pleading guilty to second-degree murder and accepting the charges against him. This agreement allowed him to avoid a first-degree murder conviction and an additional charge of tampering with physical evidence. Yet it still led to a significant sentence. Jefferson County Judge Diego Hunt handed down a 40-year prison sentence for the murder, with an additional 15 years for tampering with a deceased human body. Chris also faced 8 years of parole once his sentence is completed. But was this justice served, or could there have been a different way forward? The story of Chris Moffat is a disturbing look into how unresolved family conflicts can spiral into tragedy. It's a case that raises so many questions. What could have been done to prevent this? How did the dynamics within the Moffat family set Chris on this path? And what are the lasting impacts on those left behind? Veronica Serenana's memory serves as a grim reminder of the dangers of domestic violence and the lives it can claim. For her family and friends, justice may have been served, but it can never replace the loss they endured. Meanwhile, the Moffat family is left with fractured ties and painful memories. The case forces us to confront the darker aspects of human nature and the irreversible consequences of choices made in anger and resentment. Now, how do you feel about the justice served in this case? Let us know in the comments below, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more.